Network.
Good evening, everyone. It is it's just gone 8 p.m. here in the UK. We are an hour later than normal, but we have a very, very special reason for that. I would like to introduce to you not only my cohorts and co-hosts in the Pro Synth Network live show, but also our very special guest this week, a man you've all been dying to meet, and we have too. Let me introduce Ben Simpson, Cryss Synthient, and the one and only Geert van Schlänger. Welcome.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Throbby. It's nice to be on your show.
And it's just an absolute honour to have you here with us today. I'm going to come to you in just a moment, Geert, and that's probably a phrase that you've heard quite frequently in your line of work. Yes. I just want to say hi to the other guys. Ben, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Everything well in your world?
It is, yeah. I've just embarked into the world of video production, and I hated every minute of it. I've just got through it by the skin of my teeth, and I've lived to tell the tale. I don't think I'll be going back too soon.
The beard is looking decidedly more grey.
I'm trying to turn into Uncle Albert.
And a successful job, I think.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree. Yeah. Cryss, how is it in sunny California?
Very warm, very beautiful.
Thank you for the guitar, by the way. That was rather fitting, I thought.
Very sexy.
Garrett has put so many good tutorials online that you got to use those skills.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice use of the wall.
Yeah. So, Geert, welcome to our humble little show, and thank you ever so much for joining us tonight from your little studio there, where I guess you do all of your work. It seems like you have a really nice collection of synthesizers there. I was always wondering, what was your first synthesizer that you got into?
Well, yes, when I was a young lad, I used to hear the sound of the synthesizers on the sexy musics, but I could never afford a synthesizer. And then a company came out with a little affordable synth called the Tinky 100. And we went down to the store, and I picked it up and went home, and I spent many hours in my bedroom playing with my Tinky. And it was a very simple synthesizer, but it had the bandpass filter, which is great because you can do the wah. And if there's no wah, you won't get far, as they say in Holland. I'm told, I've never visited. So that was my first synth, the Tinky 100, and that really set me on my way. I mean, a few years later, I upgraded to the Tinky 500, and that had the ribbon strip on it. And I find if you play with your Tinky and then you put a bit of finger in there as well, it takes things to another level.
Oh, his connection seems to have. Are you there?
I am there.
Oh, you went a little bit wobbly, just for a few seconds. But you were saying about your fingering technique.
Yeah, the fingering added to the experience of the Tinky.
Yes, it did on the ribbon strip. If you play with your Tinky and then you just add a little bit of the finger, it takes things to the next level, I find. Yes.
I've still got a Tinky.
Yes.
I was hoping to progress, but unfortunately, I've still got the Tinky.
Because what was the next model up from the Tinky? Was that the Winky?
Yes, the Winky was less of a success. But the Tinky 500 was really the pinnacle. Then the company went under. But yes, it was good. I got the Tinky and I went out. I had a little band with. Well, he was my friend at the time, Knut van Krebs. But we fell out over the writing credits of Oompy Loompy, Let's Get Poopy. And we went out in the streets and we started the buskings and. I got my Tinky out and started playing with that, and someone spotted us playing, and they thought the Tinky sounded very sexy. So I got my first job doing some music for the Blue Movies, and yes, for my first film was Saturday Night Beaver, and I played with my Tinky all over that.
That's fascinating. How many films have you made now?
I've lost count. So many. Sleeping Beauty, Twin Cheeks, Breast Side Story, Casablanca, Batman and Robin, Robocock. So many.
It's
classics.
It's an amazing roster of performances. And do you ever get lured into maybe joining in other than just the music?
There have been times where you need to really understand the role to get inside the music, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very good. Cryss, have you got any questions for Geert before we crack on with the news?
Well, I imagine that there's a great amount of preparation that goes into such an endeavor, and how much time and what do you do to prepare?
Yes, you do need to prepare. I find usually if you get yourself relaxed with some oils and some lubricants, and then usually you're ready if you're nice and warmed up. Otherwise, things don't go so smoothly.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
I imagine.
There is, yes. You have to start small and then you build up,
Yeah. And friction burns, they're really not a pleasant thing to have.
You don't want those, no?
No.
Especially not on your Tinky.
Of course, absolutely. Ben, have you got anything you'd like to ask Geert before we crack on?
I've just been looking through his work on IMDb, and some of it, I've got to say, it's outstanding. I wasn't aware until recently that the music actually lasted longer than 30 seconds, but I'm just looking into it now, and some of these, the Burbage Project, the Da Vinci Load, they're all classics, and I've got to take my hat off to you, and everything else really.
Yes.
You're just something to aspire to.
Thank you. Yes,
I hope
it's
to
quite a
raise
roster.
my game to your level one day.
Yes, maybe you will raise it as high as you wish. Yes, it's a good roster of work. I'm particularly proud of Planet of the Gapes and My Bear Lady. Tale of Two Titties was a good one too.
Yeah, very good.
Many classics.
Yeah.
And what's next on Mr. Van Schlanger's agenda? Have you got anything lined up that's...
It's very difficult at the moment because when it's locked down, it's cocked down.
Yep.
It's
I hear you,
difficult
buddy.
to work in the industry when you've got to social distance, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, it is. Yep, absolutely. So this is, it's just an absolute honour to have you on the show and to hear your, the way that you work, and I'm sure we'll learn more about that as time goes on. Any new videos on YouTube coming soon? Any new tutorials?
Nothing immediately in the works, but if there's enough demand, maybe people can put it in. People in the chat, are they doing the one-handed typing, one hand typing, the other hand touching their synthesizer? If there's enough demand, I don't know. Maybe I'll return for more tutorials.
Yeah, because they go down very, very well.
Yeah. Yes. I do like going down well.
And from everything I've heard, you do. Absolutely.
You're not wrong there, Mr. Trobby.
Yeah, thank you. That's something I'm going to treasure for the rest of my life. Thank you. Anything else you want to discuss with us before we move on to the news of the week at all? Or?
No, I'm good. I might have a little tiddle on my Twinkie in the background, but you guys carry on.
Okay, right then, we'll do that. So we have plenty of stuff to go through. Let me just line a few of these things up.
Excuse me, I just got to answer my phone.
Of course, yeah.
69, 69, 69, Geert van Schlänger. How many? With no lubricant? Let's put the ass in disaster. I'll have to be there right away. I'm so sorry. There's a bit of an incident. It sounds messy. Can I join you again later?
Yes, of course.
Please
Yeah,
do.
just give me a ping and we'll bring you back in. But Geert van Schlänger, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So let's discuss what we're going to do now. We've got a whole bunch of news topics. Hopefully, Geert might be able to make it back to us at some point during the show. But hey, everyone, wasn't that just incredible? The one and the only Geert van Schlänger on our show.
He's so good. He's so good. He's a leader in his field.
Absolutely. I mean, we have got some big name guests. You know, we had Moog last week, and now Geert van Schlänger. I mean, we are going places. Absolutely, that was fantastic.
Big in double barrels, aren't we?
I mean, big. Yeah. You know, really big.
Yeah.
We've got lots of news stuff to go through this week because last week, in case you didn't realise, we had Michelle Moog on the show, and we had a wonderful 2 hours with her. And hang on a second, somebody's just trying to get through.
Hi, yeah, sorry, Gert's had to. Run
Hi,
off.
Alex. How are you?
What are you
I'm
doing
alright,
at Gert's house?
Are you? Yeah. What's going on?
Sorry. Yeah, he just ran out and he said, "Can you take over?" So I don't know what's been happening.
Well, we were just kind of chatting with your friend and kind of getting to know him, but he got a phone call, so I had to go. But you can't stand in the way of these superstars, so you just kind of
No.
But look, if you're available while he's not around, would you mind joining in?
Why not? Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. Yeah. All right, and Alex, well, welcome and thank you. Thank you for that. Shall we just take the curtain down and go scene? Shall we?
What?
Can I just say
What curtain?
Can I just say a massive thank you, Alex, for being an incredible sport. Thank you.
I don't know why you're thanking me. He's a totally different guy.
Excellent. Well,
it still says Geert van Schlänger in the bottom.
It does. It does. Well, let's get rid of that. So we've got loads of stuff to kind of go through, and Alex, we'd really love to have your thoughts and opinions on some of these news topics. As I was saying, we had Michelle on last week, and so we didn't really cover much of the news. So we've got a couple of things that have hung over from last week, and then obviously there's been some new stuff happening in the last 7 days. So we'll cover those.
Perhaps we should do a short introduction to Alex as well, since he's filling in.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course this is the one and the only Alex Ball of YouTube fame, but obviously many other multifaceted, talented man that he is. But he. And I'm not blowing smoke up the proverbial backside, but you do make some of the finest synth videos known to man and woman and beasts.
Definitely.
Thank you. Better than Geert van Schlängers, or?
Oh no, I mean they're on a par.
Okay.
It's kind of like same
Don't
level.
get cocky.
Oh, the puns keep coming. Oh, there's another one. So, yeah, I mean, thanks for joining us. In case anybody is completely unaware of who Alex Ball is, you make some amazing videos. Some of them are short, 10, 15-minute single instrument stories. Some of them are massive documentaries, such as the ARP documentary, which I'd have to say is absolutely fantastic. Yes. And I think what sets you apart, and I think I can speak for everyone here, is not just your incredible playing skills and your incredibly well-researched knowledge of the subject, but it's the humour and the production values, and it's that whole thing. And quite frankly, there is nobody else quite doing things quite like you, and I, for one, am grateful that you exist. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, same here.
And of course, Alex Ball is the channel name on YouTube. We'll probably pop a couple of those up, and particularly the latest one, the VP330, which was incredibly good. There we go. Alex Ball, everyone.
This is nice in the chat. It says, when I first saw the ARP documentary, I assumed I was watching a BBC or PBS documentary made by a large team, and that's
Sorry
kind
to disappoint you.
that is the production value of it, though, isn't it? It does seem like a really well made, big budget production, and it's great, very entertaining.
Thank you.
Yeah, because Alex and I did a Sound on Sound podcast. Blimey, when was that? Was that last year?
Yeah, it was a year ago. Yeah, blimey. Yeah.
Jeez, and we talked about that. And if you want to hear a lot about how Alex, did that, I just quick plug Sound on Sound podcast. But it really is a fascinating insight into the huge amount of work. It was a year, wasn't it, Alex, that you kind of just prepared?
Yeah. Yes, because it kind of I'd done some documentaries before, but I just kind of by accident, really, but they proved quite popular, and I enjoyed doing them, so I decided to do one on ARP, and it was the first time where I actually got to somebody who was a family member.
Yeah.
So I got to Dina, who was the daughter of Alan Pearlman, and he'd just passed at the time, so it was, it was all kind of in the synth news, I guess, and we started talking, and then she followed from there, and I wound up interviewing all these people from ARP some of whom had never spoken about it before, so it just became this absolute monster. I was thinking it'd be a kind of half-hour film, and then a year later we had a 2-hour documentary, which had taken a lot of cutting down. I had something like 16 hours of footage or something.
Wow.
So that was a monster. Now that went out a year ago, I think.
Yeah. Jeez, yeah.
I thought I'd leave it a long bit of time before I started thinking about doing one again, because it's just it was so amazing. I never expected that to happen. So yeah.
Are you thinking of doing something else along those lines, or in that magnitude?
A couple of conversations going on. And there's 2 possibilities, but cool. I'd like them to kind of be right.
Yeah.
I mean, and done in the right way. And the problem at the moment is you can't really go anywhere or do anything. So maybe. Yeah. We'll see. But there's a couple of possibles.
We have
in the chat.
Go ahead, Cryss. Yeah, we're going to say.
The Alan Pearlman Foundation. And one of the comments, a couple of the comments, can we do outtakes? And also, my mother loved it. So I mean, when it's when family of Alan has thought so highly of it, we know that it's been done really well.
Well, I mean, it was down to them, really. They told me the story. I mean, that was the amazing thing. It was really lovely, actually. Early on, what really made the film possible was, I thought, where on earth are we going to find an ARP 2500? Because they made like 100 of them, something like that. And I put some messages out on some boards and just got a load of sarcastic responses. And then by the end of it, we'd filmed 3 2500s, which is ridiculous, and the different models of 2500 as well, which is I found out that's a whole story. There isn't actually one instrument called a 2500, but that's another story anyway. But when we filmed with the first one with Tony, I think you know him.
Yes, Tony Gallagher.
And Dina and Buena came on a video call. And I remember Buena looked at it and we said, "Do you remember these?" And she had a kind of wry look in her eyes. She was like, "Oh yeah." It was weird because she probably was stood next to that very 25, because they're all hand built. She was probably stood next to it in that little garagey building they started out in. At some point. That's the odd thing about instruments that were hand built and they made in such few numbers that it's almost certain people you speak to who worked on them touched that one. It's really weird thinking. Whereas stuff that's mass produced, it's just unlikely, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, excuse me. We'll talk more to you about your work and what you've done and what you might have planned a little bit later on in the show. Before we kind of move on to some of the topics, I just want to push out the usual stuff. So you can find us on Twitter and also on Instagram and also on Facebook as well. And of course YouTube, and we're all under now the unified tag of at ProSynth Network, which is something we've been able to do thanks to Cryss sorting all of that out for us. If you want to donate to the channel to keep us going, we would greatly appreciate that, and you can do that. The link is in the description below the video, but there it is on the screen. So it's just cut.ly/PSN-donate. And that's kind of that's all the stuff out of the way. So we'll move on. Let's talk about this thing, because it's still, I think, reverberating around the synthesizer world, and that is the news of the release of the new instrument from GForce Software, which is the rather marvelous and stupendous OBE. Which was announced a week last Tuesday, I believe, to rapturous applause and some not so rapturous applause, but we'll come on to that bit later on. And of course, this is a replication of the Oberheim 8 voice, so it's 8 SEM modules, but done in that typically brilliant GForce way, where they amalgamate everything and add some really cool features and just nail the sound completely. I'm going to come to Alex first, because you did a video for this, and you've clearly had your hands in this for a little while now. What were your kind of first thoughts when you first got to play this instrument, because it is a beast?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with software is it can be quite hit and miss. I've got software plugins that are incredible, but I've got many, many more that just aren't. It's very easy for software to sound kind of two-dimensional and just not have the realism. There's something about, especially analog synths, there's something about the way they sound and behave that's very, very hard to model. And some every now and again someone does it like really, really well. What the GeForce stuff has been very high quality, but this one is of another level. When you load it up and you just have like a SEM and you set up a sound and you play it back, and then you add the next one, then you add the next one. It was quite eye opening. It sounds fantastic. It really does. So and the great thing about it is it's an instrument that nobody's ever going to have access to realistically. They made so few. I mean, it's like the GeForce one. It's like, where did you get that? It's like, Chick Korea. It's not.
I know, it's crazy.
You don't get these things on eBay. So yeah. It's a perfect thing to model, and I love the way that Dave trolled everybody by did a video where he set up a sound on the real one, and then revealed right at the end that the whole video you'd been listening to the software. And that was the thing. He sent me audio while we were going along from the real one, and back, A/B, and said which is which, and I was like, I don't know. They really did a good job. I mean, at the same time, I will say that I haven't spent a long time with an with an 8 voice. I've only played it once. So just caveat that. But I mean, and I think that the video I did hopefully demonstrate that you can just set these. The fact you've got these 8 voices and they're completely discrete, and then you can pan them all out, and you can just get when they did the original 8 voice video years ago, and Dave set up this thing and just played this chord pattern, which I think someone described as like the sound of heaven in a synth or something. Yeah. That comes across. It's got that kind of. It's not perfect at all. It doesn't feel like a computer. So they've done a hell of a job modeling that. Yeah. It's taken years, but they've. Great job on that. Really, excellent. Yeah.
Well, when I first saw the video, I was obviously I wasn't aware of that it was going to be the OBE at the end and not the actual 8 voice. I was watching it and thinking, that's got an incredible sound, that thing. It's so lucky, to have access to that, and he's opened it up, unselfishly opened it up to everybody, and everybody can now have that a little bit of that unique sound.
And it is kind of, because it's such a good replication. I mean, I like yourself, Alex. I've had a go on that one in Dave's studio only for a very short time and didn't really make anything worth remembering on it. And I remember seeing it at Synthfest a few years ago, and loads of people were kind of going up and playing with it and not really coming out with stuff. But what they've done with this, with the presets that they have in there and the new added features that make it really simple to set one of the SEMs up, and then use that feature where you can adjust everything, but everything's relative, so it's and then you kind of easily start to shape some of those sounds. You still need to know what you're doing somewhat, but it makes it easier.
I think that's the problem with the original, is each SEM is a bit wonky because it's like 50 years old, and you have to 45 years old, and you have to get it in tune, and then that's just one. And then you have to move on to the next one and move on to the next one. And whilst you're moving on, the other two have slipped a bit out of tune. Yeah. So it's not the quickest thing to work with. The result, obviously, the end result is phenomenal. But in OBE, you can copy and paste, or you can just flip to a view where you're just looking at one SEM, and that's all of them. Yeah. So they all
you can
do
link
the same
them
thing.
as well. Yeah, you can link them. So that's much better.
And then there's offset, like you were saying, Robbie. Offset. If you've set them all slightly differently, but you want to open all the filters relatively, you can have offset as well. So clever. They've just basically, probably from being frustrated from using a real one, thought, what would I wish I could do on this?
Yeah,
Copy
and
paste.
And then kind of gifted all of that to us. I mean, let's be honest. I know it's on offer, but I think the full price is $149.99. Even at full price, for a synth with that capability, is insanely good value.
Yeah.
It's just... Chris, you've had a go with this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I absolutely love it. In fact, we've been doing ProSynth Network for about almost a year in a few weeks. And one of the things that probably I've said the most is, like, I wish there would be both hardware and software SEM stuff that's good, and I haven't, I have the Arturia and I have the Oberhausen, and I didn't really care for the Oberhausen. The Arturia, I could do some things, but wasn't great, and had much better luck with, say, my OB6 or the Moog 1 at getting those kind of tones. And so this is something that I've really been wanting, and now an 8-voice and hardware is just unbelievable. I don't think I can even dream of that. So the hope was that somebody would make some software that would do this, and of course, who better than Dave Spears? And when I've heard people talk about art, like I've heard people say, "Oh, I've gone and I've sat in an art exhibit and I've just stared at a painting and I cried," or something, and I've really had a hard time understanding it. Like I've never seen a painting that's moved me that much. Music's a little more personal for me, and I have to feel like when I started playing the synthesizer, which I've wanted forever, and here it is, and it's been done so well that it was kind of like it felt a physical sensation of it, like some chills playing it. And I'm not over exaggerating that. That's not some sort of weird gushing marketing spill or anything. It was that kind of experience. It's so fantastically good. And, as I've ranted and raved many times, usually when you get a synthesizer, the presets are completely crap. And on this OBE, there's so many good sounds already in it before you... I still haven't even made a sound on there. I've just been playing with it, and sounds so amazing. But, of course, the features, as Alex was saying, like, it's even easier. To program 8 sim modules is a tough endeavor to get everything working the way you want it, but they've made it as easy as possible, which is great. I don't think we could have asked for a better 8-voice software than this. And of course, Dave's mini documentary on the 8-voice was one of my favorite synthesizer things online.
I have to agree with you that comment about the presets. I mean, I think for the first couple of days I didn't get past the second one. In fact, and that probably says more for my laziness than anything else. But in fact, the new outro music that we premiered last week is me playing the second patch out of the box. It's the second patch. And I held the chord down and thought, oh, and then it just kind of fell out. It was just like it was. I love synths whose sound inspire you to make new music, and that's. And people go on about presets and all stuff that this, it's just great stuff. And of course, there is a really great selection of presets in there to give you an idea of what you can do with this thing. But we're going to have to address the elephant in the room, and this is the fact that there is no PC version as yet, and it was a very bold move. And I remember. I didn't know until I went on the website and then just was scrolling through, and then I saw it said Mac, and I thought, okay. And then it dawned on me about 30 seconds later that no PC. And then something at the back of my head said, I bet they're going absolutely crazy over at KVR. So I thought, well, I rarely go to that place because it is, it can be, that wretched hive of scum and villainy. And I went over there, and literally there was, within an hour of Dave announcing, there was 12, 15 pages on this one thread of people moaning about there not being a PC version. Luckily, the next day, Dave goes on to Sonic's Day and gives his reasons for it, which is, and you can go and watch Sonic State's video to get the real skinny on that one, but basically new development tools which are currently focused in the Mac world. OBE is kind of the first experiment, if you will, to see if it could handle something of this magnitude. It seems to have done a very good job, and so PC is going to be the next version. And whilst I don't think they've 100% committed to it, I think it's likely to happen. It's just not going to happen, immediately. But this isn't the first time a synth has come out in one platform only, and then maybe in another platform later, or sometimes not even that. Has anybody got any particular thoughts on this PC, non-PC thing?
From what I understand, this will probably be, we're going to see a lot less of that in the future.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about programming and writing plugins or anything like that, but what little I have gleaned online is programmers are using Juice, which allows them to make assets or whatever for both PC and Mac. So it's easier for a company that's putting out plugins to do it for both PC and Mac. So hopefully they'll kind of get on that train, and as are a lot of other plugin manufacturers that are heading that direction, that we hopefully won't be having these conversations of it's only for PC or it's only for Mac anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's just an age-old debate and conversation, Mac versus PC, and when something gets something and the other one doesn't, it's all hell breaks loose.
But it's always been like that, hasn't it?
Sadly, yeah.
When PCs were everywhere, and there was only you knew somebody who knew somebody else who had a Mac, and they were a bit weird because nobody had Macs at the time.
It's true.
You couldn't get anything, No. I was dead chuffed when I finally got Photoshop for a Mac, and that's it's. I don't know. So now when you see anybody doing any kind of music, like it or not, I know the PC base has got a strong following of dedicated users and that, but more often than not now, people are using a Mac. When you see them live, you see on stage, if there's a computer there, it's a Mac. So you're going to make something for the customer base, aren't you?
And Dave's customer base, because let's not forget, a few months before this came out, and obviously this was already in development, was always going to be Mac anyway. But a few months before this came out, Dave sent out a mail shot to all subscribers with a survey, and the results of that survey came back came back with 80-20 split in favour of the Mac in terms of his customer base. And yet you see all these posts and threads saying, "Oh, they clearly don't know their customer base." Well, no, sorry, they do. And so, as you said, as recently as possibly 10 years ago, there were applications or plugins that were exclusively PC, and developers are saying no, we don't do Mac, or we might do a Mac version. And now the shoe's on the other foot. I guess there are some people who are probably feeling a bit butthurt about all of that, but I'm sure that, they'd be stupid if they didn't do a PC.
I think they should do a version, but obviously I think the bigger market is the Mac market now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can understand people being frustrated that they can hear something and they're like, wow, that sounds fantastic, and then realizing they can't use it right away. So I can totally understand people's frustration. I mean, it got completely out of hand. Some of the stuff that happened was off the charts, unbelievable. But I can understand the frustration. I think from their perspective, they've set up a whole way of developing something like this that they haven't been able to do before, and the whole system that they use to do that is Mac. And so this was the first thing, and it's not like you just press a button and make that PC. It's a massive job. So they thought they'd test the water with OBE and as a proof of concept, and then if that works, they'll then continue with these tools, which obviously are very, very powerful going forward. Yeah, and they'll look into moving it over to Mac. But I mean, Dave was clear to say that they've stung themselves in the past by announcing that something is coming, and then people go, when? So they've not said when PC is coming deliberately, because they don't want to get snagged by their own deadlines or anything. So it will by their own petard. Exactly, it will come. But I've used both Mac and PC for 15 years. I flipped between. I've usually had both at the same time. So I totally empathize with people who are like, oh, I can't use it, I'm on PC. I get that, but I think the people going after them as though they're stupid was the
worst one.
Worse.
Yeah, well, the worst ones that I saw were the ones where they were going after Hugo, I spoke to Dave privately about Hugo, and he can't speak highly enough of the guy, because clearly he's gifted. He knows what he's doing, but because I did wonder whether Dave might have had a bit of regret after kind of naming Hugo in the video, which he was absolutely right to do, because Hugo's done the bulk of this work.
Yes.
But then only for certain individuals on places like KVR to name and shame this young guy who has has done a fantastic job. I thought that was just so wrong. But there you go. That's the internet.
He should be getting an award after.
Well, I think if there are such things, I'm sure he will.
Well, that's the main thing. The thing to focus on is it's here. That was possible. They tried to make something from nothing, and they made it, and that's what it sounds like. So that's a huge achievement. And going forward, goodness knows what else they can make now. But I mean, I'm sure the PC conversation will go on, and there'll be a resolution, and
until the next thing happens. Until the next instrument comes out from somebody else.
Yes. And if I were a betting man, I bet we'll have the GeForce PC version before we have Roland Cloud fixed. So
I think we'll have we'll have a lot of things before that gets fixed.
What's the problem with Roland Cloud?
We haven't got that long. Okay. We have to finish at 10, so sorry.
Okay. I haven't had any problems with it.
No, the instruments, great. The Roland Cloud Manager, not so good. But we'll probably talk about that in a bit. Okay. Because we've got
I know people at Roland. Maybe we could feed some stuff back if people are having problems.
Absolutely, I mean, all for that. Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to show that there are some great demonstration videos out there. Yours being, it's weird, isn't it, when you hear your voice and actually you're, and I think, hang on, he's talking. So you've got your video there with the demonstration. It's kind of it's only about 10 minutes long, but it's a really nice little introduction to it. There is also this brilliant video that somebody posted, and I think Dave then followed and shared.
Oh yeah, Marius
had to chuckle at this one.
He's such a legend.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's flitting between the software and the hardware, and we've kind of got to guess. But as I think Dave said, you forget about what you're trying to do, and you just kind of get lost in the music. And I thought at the end that it was going to be another twist video, and that this was actually all going to be DX7. Because, why not? But yeah, that's a brilliant video. And there are others out there. Jamie from GeoSynths, he did a one synth track, so everything was OBE, so that was great. There's lots of really good stuff coming out there. And we've all had a bit of a play with it, haven't we, lads? And we've done various bits, and we might showcase those at some point.
Yeah.
But anyway, OBE.
I was just going to say before we go off the OBE thing, one of the most interesting things for me about it is the 8 units linking with the sequencer.
Yeah,
and that's like a really unique aspect to it. You've got the potential for a completely different sound, in each trigger of the eight SEMs, and I just really think that's interesting, and I can't wait to start using that on some sort of original thing, because a lot of what I'm doing now, I'm copying something else, and there's no use for that. I can't copy something else with some weird random noise sequencer. That's got to be for something original. But I'm really looking forward to getting to grips with that and making it possibly like the center of a couple of tracks. Where the tracks are built around that.
Yeah,
I'm really interested in that possibility.
It's a very inspiring. Yeah, it's a very inspiring instrument, and that I think is something that we can all agree upon. So OBE is available now. It's currently on offer. The offer is very close to ending. The 30. No, so there was a £30 discount, I think, that you had if you got the email, but also the price had dropped as well. So if you're quick off the mark, you could get a nice. I mean, even at full price, it's still a great deal. Yeah. But it's available now. GForceSoftware.com. Go and check it out. Obviously, if you've got a Mac. Something else came out last week that we didn't speak about, and this is something I've been slightly involved with in terms of testing. This is the new synthesizer for Reason.
Algorithm is
called Algorithm or Algoritm.
Both in terms of what it can do for your music, but also in terms of how much fun it is to experiment with. So I thought I would get you up to speed on it, while also maybe encouraging a few of you to take your first steps into sound design while we're at it. Algorithm's look and name might suggest that it's a type of synthesizer known as an FM synthesizer.
We'll stop there because it is essentially, at its core, an FM synthesizer, but it has 9 kind of operator slots, but you don't just have operators, you can also have other elements such as wave elements and oscillators that can do different things. So you can do traditional FM, but you can also do some stuff outside of the box, and it's a really nicely designed instrument. And this replaces in their catalogue the PX7, which you can no longer buy because if I'm understanding it correctly, it was created by a third party. There was a deal. That deal has now ended, so they no longer sell PX7 as the FM synth, which was essentially a clone of a DX7, could import native, the original native files. This, on the other hand, takes it kind of next level, and it's this yet another incident of a company taking on FM and doing something beyond that of traditional 32 algorithm 6 operator FM. And it's so easy to use and so much fun to get, again, instant sounds. But of course, it is only available in the Reason environment, which is not necessarily too restrictive, because if you have Reason, you can use you automatically have, if you have the latest version anyway, you get the Reason rack plugin, which you can then use in Logic, Cubase, whichever DAW that you're using. So you can still have this functioning in your DAWs. So. Yeah, still kind of in a closed environment, should I say, but is available to be used elsewhere. Any thoughts on this one? Cryss, let's start with you.
Well, just out of curiosity, how much does Reason cost then? So say for somebody like me who I'm not giving up Logic, I'm not going to learn anything else, I'm going to spend that time on other gear, and to get this as part of the rack plugin, how much does that cost?
So I believe there are different ways of getting into Reason now, because as you remember, we spoke about it when they went to this new subscription service. So you can subscribe for like $20 a month and you get everything. So you get the entire Reason system, and every propeller head plugin that they make, or the rack extensions as they call them, and you just pay $20 a month, and every time there's an update or every time there's a new rack extension that propeller head produce, you just get it and it's there, it's in your account. If you want to buy the perpetual license, I believe it's still $399. I will have to double check on that, but it's around like, you know, the $400 mark for the entire perpetual package. And then, you know, stuff like Algoritm is $99 to buy as a plugin. So yeah, it's different ways of getting into it. So you could say, well, it's $20 a month, or it's $400 for a few years. So that's that.
I really like it. I think it looks really intuitive, the way that they've done it. It seems like, from what I've seen, the little I have seen, it seems almost modular. And I like the way that like you've got a module for each operator, and then the like if it was a physical thing, you've got the sliders there for the ADSR for that operator. It makes so much sense, you know, than like going back to a DX, so you were flipping from one screen to another, trying to remember which operator you were working on, and you know it got like mind blowing at some point.
Yeah.
So this modular approach is brilliant for FM synthesis. I think it's a cracking move.
Well, I think one of the things that's been kind of shown in the last few years is that if you make FM graphical, then it makes a lot more sense and much more easy to navigate. Because if you look at, say, for example, here, you know, you have your 9 operator slots. We'll just call them that. But you can have an operator, a filter, a shaper, or an oscillator with noise in there. Let's just zoom in. But also up here, you've got this grid, which allows you almost in a modular, or should I say, in a traditional Reason way of patching cables. You can take the output of any one of these and map it to the input of another, and then you can also create feedback as well, because that's obviously an important part of FM. It has kind of simplified it without making it too simple, which is always nice to see, but at the same time it's even more powerful because it has a lot more going on. And you've got this wonderful randomizer feature as well, which you can randomize all 5 of these particular options here: the frequency, the mode, the level, envelope, and algorithm. Or you can just pick and choose which ones to randomize, and so you can play around with that. That
patch bag kind of thing. That is the algorithm, isn't it?
That's essentially So this mirrors what you've got here in on the larger screen. But this is kind of how you patch it all together. It's showing you how it's patched together, and so you can take the output of one operator, as you can see here. The output of this carrier here is going up to the input of this filter up here, which in turn is feeding modulators elsewhere. So, and then you can see that you've got feedback loops going on, and so it's really nice to be able to visualize FM, because that does make it more accessible, which is really cool. Yeah. Alex, I don't know if you're a Reason user or you like FM.
I was a Reason user. I've got an old copy of Reason 4, I think, over there somewhere. I used to use Reason. It's funny you're saying about Cryss not wanting to move away from Logic, because I've been in Cubase, and the reason I got Reason was because you could rewire it and you could control it from Cubase. So if the transports would be linked, so then I could load up sounds which Reason had in abundance, and then they would just come up as a sound in Cubase. So you put the MIDI in Cubase, but it would just be firing out of Reason. So I had Reason. There was some great plugin like packages they developed. They did like all the Abbey Road keys. They did loads of bass guitars and stuff. What else did they do? They did some absolutely cracking stuff. There's some really good synths in there. So I went back in there because I used it for a video for something. I was like, there's some really good sounds in this, considering it's like, I mean, the original was 20 years ago at least.
It was 2000.
So I think I went through Reason. I think I joined about Reason 2, went 3, 4, and then I think by that point I just had so many sounds in Cubase, in Contact, and in various places. I kind of and I'd use the sounds to death. So
Yeah.
I just I haven't used it, but that does look cool, because that is the biggest problem with FM is the way it interacts and the way it works. It especially if you're used to analog subtractive. It's just, and they tend to be on hardware. They tend to be on instruments where you've just got like a little readout like that. Especially the DX7 is ridiculous. So having it laid out on a computer like that, suddenly you can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I looked into it once. I was like, could someone make a controller for a DX7 that would be knob for function, but it would be like laughably big, wouldn't it?
They did, yeah.
Because someone did. They did, didn't they? And it proved the point that the reason why it has to be within menus and algorithms and is because if you put it knob per function, it would be insane.
Yeah.
So to then put that in a plugin that looks pretty small.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
considering,
it's reason rack size, so it's
and then I like that because I always used to love that you could patch the cables in Reason. That's really cool because you can
flipping it round. What's on the back of that? What options have you got there?
I haven't got a screenshot of that. And if I fire up my Reason now, I know I'll curse
don't
something.
worry about it.
Yeah. But I mean, it does have patch cables on the back, so you can patch certain parameters. Between obviously it's Reason, it will let you do that. But I mean, you say this kind of graphical user interface, which is something. So, in other news, I got my shipping notice today. My Essence FM has left Toulouse and is winging its way across the channel at some point over the next day or two, and will be here early part of next week, I hope. And the reason I'm really excited about that is because it has this touchscreen graphical interface, and when I've seen people, you can just drag envelope points. You can place operators in any order. You can connect them just by dragging across, and it just looks so wonderful for composing sounds in FM. This is kind of an equivalent of that. And of course, we've got we had the Op6 recently, which, whilst it only has a very small screen, it does expose some of the core and key, should I say, parameters for tweaking.
Who was the guy you interviewed who was the FM programmer guy?
Manny Fernandez.
That's it.
Yeah,
that was awesome. I listened to that on a long car journey, and I forgot his name, but I hadn't quite realised the development of FM, how many years that went on and on, because you kind of pigeonhole it, don't you, to a kind of era.
That's
you
it.
Think, there's that sound, and then it's like, no, that went on and on and on. There's FM, and then there's FM, and then there's FM, and it was being.
I mean, Yamaha were developing it. Yeah, and Yamaha were developing it 10 years before the DX7 came out. They started developing in '73. The technology, when Dr. Chowning he said he kind of stumbled across this thing. He didn't invent it. He just discovered that it was there in '69. So this was, this is Minimoog territory, essentially. It's still, this was being discovered when we were just kind of getting used to doing stuff on a Minimoog.
There's some serious out-the-box thinking going on there, though, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
To come up with that idea, that initial idea, it's
fun. That before we came on air, before I had my dinner this evening, I had a very rushed evening because we had to get one division in before I did the show. Otherwise, my family couldn't stay up till late. By the way, we just spoke about Manny Fernandez, and he's here in the chat room saying thanks for the shout out. So you're welcome, Manny. All due respect to you, sir. But there's a great video, and I've seen it before. It's one of these early 1980s computer TV shows on PBS in the US. And they had Dr. Chowning on there with one of the directors, a lady from Centauri that did the Alpha Centauri kind of Apple II based synthesizer, programmer. And Dr. Chowning, they played some audio examples, and he said, so here is, this was FM, and he said, here is a carrier, and we're going to add another one, and as you can hear, it doesn't really sound very special, but as soon as we introduce this modulator that gives it a bit of vibrato, all of a sudden this thing just comes to life. And it was a really wonderful demonstration of the fact that, it was quite simple in some respects. How he got, how FM works is kind of quite simple. Actually making it, make really good sounds like Manny does, is quite a feat in itself. But yeah, there you go. Algoritm from Reason Studios. I keep wanting to call them Propellerheads. but they're not that anymore. So Reason Studios is available now for 99 US, I think 99 euros as well. Of course, it works only in the Reason environment. Let's move on now to something else. Well, let's stick on the FM theme. I hear a massive groan from the chat room. But there is a new synthesizer coming out from, and I never know, so somebody please do correct me if I get this wrong. Xils-Labs, Xils. I don't know if that's just supposed to be pronounced as an initials or Xils or Zils or I don't know. Yeah, it's an odd one, but they have kind of teased a new plugin called the KaoX, which is KaoX, and I'm just trying to call up this video because they haven't put anything on YouTube, so I had to get this video elsewhere, and I'm hoping that the system, we've got this brand new feature in our broadcast system that allows us to play videos from outside of other places. And it's not working now, so I'm going to cancel that off. Let's bring in the picture. This is a picture of it. This is the Xils-Labs KaoX. And for those that know their FM, which I'm sure there's loads of you, you can see that this is based on, certainly visually, the famous Yamaha GS1, which was probably the first production FM synthesizer that Yamaha produced. And sitting above that, you can see that you've got this fairly modern, fairly flat interface, which I can't really tell you much more about because the video says it all. But this is an interesting one because the GS1 is kind of one. It's up there with those kind of Yamaha behemoth synths that they only made a handful of, and they sold for absolutely ridiculous sums of money and were used on very famous records. For example, this was used on Africa and Rosetta, basically Toto 4. They used a lot of that on that album. I think Porcaro and David Paich had a big deal with Yamaha at the time. But any thoughts on the recreation of a Yamaha GS1? I mean, does anybody know what a GS1 sounds like?
I don't know what it sounds like. No, I know of it. I wouldn't know if I got hold of that. I wouldn't know if it was accurate or not. I'd feel as though I had to have a toga on when I was playing it. It's got that it's got that kind of vibe on it. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think for the likes of you, Robbie, it's superb. I don't know if I'd be bothering with it myself, but. Yeah. Well,
it's funny because the GS1 is certainly not a synth that I've ever heard people say, "Oh, I wish they'd do a software version or even a hardware recreation of the GS1," because it was a very unique synthesizer. It was 8 operator, but only 8 operator in kind of numbers on paper, because actually it was 4 sets of 2 operators. So basically, you had 4 2-op synths in this thing, and then they stacked and layered those to get the the sound, and it was a very nice sound. Now you can't really, that one on the end there is a CE25, which is a small home version of the GS2, which has 2 of those paired operator stacks, so you have 2x2 rather than 4x2. So it has a kind of unique sound in the world of FM because it's not complex, 6 operator or 8 operator where you can connect them all up. It's just 2 operators, carrier and modulator, or 2 carriers, and then that times 4, layer them together, and hey, you've got some interesting sounds. And of course, the GS1 was a preset synth.
I'd imagine that to sound quite, no disrespect to lovers of FM, but I'd imagine that to sound quite weedy. From the description,
you'd think.
I hear something quite thin.
So it had Yamaha's very kind of famous at the time ensemble effect built in, and so you could tweak the sounds with a little bit of effects. But it actually sound. I mean, I do hope at some point very soon to do a kind of little demo video of the CE25 there, because that's essentially the same architecture but half of it. And I was so surprised when I heard that thing. It does really sound very nice. I mean, the obvious kind of bell-like, electric piano-like sounds are there, but the brass, there's like 5 or 6 brass presets in there that all are very different from each other and sound really, really nice. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as Manny said in the chat room here, the unique thing with the GS1 and the GS2 is that the two op pairs can interact with each other. But they make this fantastic kind of they have the analog ensemble in there. So and you can hear it in Africa. The marimba sound in Africa is a GS1.
It's in the video, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Playing it is the
yeah, and it's
that's
this
where I've
wonderful.
seen it.
And there's this wonderful, crazy thing that looks like a small harpsichord that wouldn't look out of place in a stately home, and yet it's the dawn of FM synthesis, or at commercial level anyway.
Yeah, that's quite a synthy sound that you was mentioning in Africa, isn't it? It's not quite. It doesn't sound FM like It's almost like it's got an analog quality to it. That's probably that ensemble.
And the fact that the DAs, the DACs in there were probably, because the DX7 were 12-bit DACs, so I don't know what was in the GS1 or 2, whether they were 12 or even less. So it certainly adds the quality. But I did have. I've got the video here, so let me just find that, because that's all we've got to go on. We've got nothing else but this video, and I'm struggling to find it now. I've lost it in my list. Oh, here it is.
Just play Africa.
Yeah, we could do, yeah. And then, we'd probably get shut down or have all these copyright claims. So this is the video. Here we go. And I'm assuming that nobody's corrected me on my pronunciation, that it is just Xils.
We're not getting sound anywhere.
So I just want it to see if I can just skip this ahead just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Went too far.
So
there we
go. Neither we
silent.
Or the chatters are getting any sound from that.
Oh, you're kidding?
No.
It's the John Cage synth.
It is. All that time, honestly, I'm really, really, really sorry about that. I don't know why that wasn't playing any sound. Let's see if I can just quickly rectify that. If not, then we'll move on.
I presumed it was just me, so I didn't say anything.
Thanks, Ben.
I was going to lie at the end of it, saying how good I thought it sounded as well. No, I wasn't really.
Right. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this. Yay! Problem in chair, not in computer. So it's got this really kind of very modern interface that sits atop of this rather ancient-looking, wooden frame, which I think is quite nice, actually. And I'm told that all of the sounds we're hearing now are sounds from this instrument. And I have to say that it does sound very nice. But of course, these weren't the sounds that you were getting on things like the original. So I think in that list they talk about these analog oscillators in there. So there's here we go. 2 independent layers with 1 FM oscillator, 8 operators structured in the 2 banks, and then cross modulation matrix with access to analog and chaotic oscillators, whatever they might be. But it looks like they've taken the basic concept and thrown a whole bunch of stuff in there. So I'm hoping that other than all of this wonderful crazy stuff you can do with it, you can still maybe get the original sound, because there isn't an example of that out there in modern synthesis at the moment. But there you go. Xils-Labs.
Bit of a bold idea going for such an ostentatious design with something so new. You'd think that you'd try something a bit low cost, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Not something that's going to cost like 35 grand to produce.
Yeah. Well, they did do a programmer for the GS1 back in the day, which was never commercially available. It was only available in the factory, and it was this big white unit with 4 small monochrome green on black monitors, one for each of the operator pairs, and then this kind of quasi keyboard control that you could manipulate the stuff on the screen with. But that was just a kind of a new version of this big program that they had. It was all buttons and switches, and they managed to get it onto screens. Google it. It's an incredible looking thing. That looks like it came out of the future and still does. And then it's sat atop the synthesizer. It looks like an old 17th century harpsichord. But there you go. So Xils-Lab.com. There's no further information on that at the moment, but I'm on this show, so you're going to hear about it at some point because it's FM. Right, let's move on to the next item. Let's do these quick little things because we do like to let people know about any special offers that are currently going on. And there are a few at the moment. So Ben, you picked this one out. I don't know if you actually went for it or not.
No.
Let's see. Let me get the right window here. So this is Native Instruments doing their 9 for 99, which confused you a little bit because after the currency exchange, it was actually 9 for 89.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was in dollars. So.
But it does actually say on the screen, I think, later on. But did you go for this bundle?
I didn't know because it's mainly for is it Contact?
Yeah, it's expansion packs basically for their instruments.
I'm not in the Contact.
No, me either.
So.
Me either. But you can get those 9 for $99 or 89 British pounds.
It seems good value. That
it does. Yeah, it does. There was also some offers from IK Multimedia recently. So they've just announced this new synthwave library for Sample Tank, and this is completely free of charge. And it's a big library of synthwavy type sounds. 1.4 gigabytes apparently of samples for Sample Tank. But not only that, if you pick this up, which you say is completely free, normally would resell for $50, you will also be provided with a 15% off pre-order coupon for the Uno Synth Pro, which is currently having all of its presets programmed, which I was told just the other day. So that's imminent. You can get a sample library for free and 15% off your pre-order of the Uno Synth Pro. They've also got another offer on at the moment with Amplitude 5, which is, as they say, the number one in guitar amp and FX modelling. And through the rest of this month, so you can pick up the Soldano Slow 100 model, and then over subsequent weeks, presets from the likes of Joe Satriani, Gus G, Marty Friedman, and Slash. So basically, the month of giving away presets for Amplitude 5. Chris, have you had a chance to play with that new model yet? Is it any? Because I noticed in the corner of your studio a Soldano.
Yes, I have an SLO, and I have to say, like going to Amplitude 5 from 4, the sound of the SLO model really got a lot better. So. Definitely gets a lot closer to the real thing, and I'm a big fan of Amplitude, and that's Amplitude, and primarily what I track with. It's like I could go mic something up and it'll be loud, or I could just sit here and do it in the computer and get really close. So it's a great.
Is it that close, Chris? Could you really dispense of the amp and mic?
I mean, in reality, yes. I keep the amp because if I go back to playing live, that's what I'll want to use. But my particular one has some factory mods that makes it kind of unique. But if you dial in to the kind of stock sound, and if I put the stock power tubes in, you could get pretty close with the Amplitude. I still think Amplitude is the best amp modeler software. And I've got some other ones that, there's a few that are pretty decent, a lot that aren't. But even for synth players, like if you want something for just a different flavor of overdrive to run your synths through, it might be worth picking up because you can get Amplitude 5 Custom Shop with some free stuff and, something like this. So Soldano is one of the, most highly regarded amps. SLO was used by guys like Eddie Van Halen and a lot of others, Warren Hayes and Eric Clapton. So, great model. Love the sound. Obviously, I loved it so much that I bought the real amp.
Wasn't there an advert that said that? I loved it so much I bought the company.
Yeah.
Remington.
Behringer.
Yeah, we've got some news about them coming up later. Alex, you're not only a very proficient filmmaker and keyboard player, but you are also an accomplished guitarist, both 4 and 6-string varieties. Do you use amp modeling software at all? Do you have any skin in this game?
No, I did use like the Line 6 pod for ages for practical reasons, being that I was in places where cranking an amp insanely loud wasn't possible and would also sound horrendous in the, you've got to be in the right space. But I went back to my roots, which is when that is funny you say you're a keyboard player but also a guitarist. I'm not the funny thing is I'm a guitarist. I can play a bit of keys. I'm a guitarist. I can play a bit of keys, but I'm a guitarist. So
I feel even worse.
So people do comment on my wonky keyboard technique. It's totally self-taught. But I'm looking at it, and of course you can't see it. I went back and I got a valve amp about 5 years ago, stuck a 57 on it, and just started tracking stuff in the real world with pedals again. And once I started doing it, I was like, oh god, I miss this. It's like I don't know, but if you use amps, Cryss, and you know amps and you're into it, because I haven't touched it, and you say you can get very close, no doubt it's moved on so much from when I last did it.
Oh yeah.
That I'd probably be. I guess it would be like using orchestral plugins 10 years later. You'd be like, oh my goodness, how much has this come on? So I would actually be interested to find out. Yeah, give it a test, because I've only got one amp, so if you want a different sound, kind of cab, in terms of speaker and all that kind of stuff, then I guess a plugin allows you to just keep flipping through them and trying stuff.
The one thing that's different as far as recording, though, and this is something that Dom brought up in the chat, is like the feel of it, the feedback of things, and the sounds are good now. Like the newest modeling sounds really amazing, and when you put it into a track, you can't tell. You can feel the difference when you play, especially if you're used to loud tube amps. I mean, there's nothing that replicates that thing. Although the software modeling has gotten even better with the feel, but the just the sense of the amp in the room, the air that's moving because you're playing with some 12-inch speakers, that doesn't translate as well. So you have to kind of get over the mental, you have to play the mental game of, while you're recording, it's not going to feel super huge, like it's shaking your pants kind of big, but once you actually hear it within the track when you're not playing, you're like, oh, there's not much difference. It sounds pretty much like a mic up amp. And in fact, I see, especially with the amplitude stuff, that some people have a lot of problems with it. They're like, well, this doesn't sound like amps I've heard or whatever. It's like, well, how is your miking technique? Because it's gotten so good in their virtual cabinet modeling stuff. If you don't mic a real amplifier very well, you're not going to have good results with the software, because they've gotten it so close together. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just pouring a glass of wine there, so I was a little bit. I thought you were still going to be talking. So yeah, that's IK Multimedia. If you want to try Amplitude 5, as Cryss mentioned, you can get it for free, the custom shop version, and you can try out a few of the things, and then if you like.
One thing I will add to that is, with the custom shop one, they give you really old amp models, so don't judge the rest of it on those amp models. The Soldano one is a little more recent, but it's that some of the ones that have come out after that point, like the Fender 2 collection, are just really, really amazing sounding.
Yeah. Keeping on the IK Multimedia subject, they have also announced this week a new release. I was hoping to have my copy before we came on air, but that's not happened. But this is wrong. I tell you what this is. This is the wrong bloody screen. Let me just do this professionally and properly. That would be
How much wine did you pour?
Yeah, not enough.
Was it
apparently.
straight into your mouth?
I wish. Right, here we go. Total Max. Sorry, I never say this the right way around. Total Studio 3 Max. Weirdest name. However, what it is pretty much every piece of software that IK Multimedia do, and that's a lot. You get 124 titles in one bundle. That's 56 plugins So that's effects plugins. You get Amplitude 5 in there. You get Sample Tank. You get Modo Drum, Modo Bass. I think the Hammond organ is in there as well. Yeah, Miroslav Orchestra. I mean, it's to use a phrase, we've gone past 9 o'clock. It's a shit ton of stuff, and you really won't want for anything if you buy this one package. It's not particularly cheap. The standard or the special edition version is $499.99, which is 25 products, but the max version is a whopping $899.99. But it's a huge saving over what you would normally pay for each of those things individually. However, I want to just bring this to everyone's attention. I'm not on any kickbacks here, but I thought this was a stunning deal. For $899, you get Total Studio 3 Max. For an extra $100, you can have a pair, not one, a pair of iLoud MTMs with the ARC microphone thrown in as well. That is a stunning deal because those monitors are just incredible. They're absolutely amazing. If you thought the iLoud micros were good, these things knock the socks off us so much. That's a deal and a half. Does anybody use IK? I know you do, Cryss. I do. Are you familiar with IK Multimedia plugins, Alex?
I've used T-Rax for
20
years.
Yeah.
Since it was like a little standalone thing. Yeah, so I'm still on. I still use that. Yeah, on everything. Just because it works, and when something works, so you can't be bothered to learn something else. So yeah, I've got T-Rex, the sweet one, so I just use the EQs, compressors.
Yeah, and it all comes in part of this package as well, along with with everything else. So it really is a one-stop shop for. I mean, I didn't realise how much of this stuff they did, and I certainly didn't realise how good T-Rex was until I was lucky enough to get a copy, and it really is very, very good. It also includes, I forget the name of it now, the that kind of rack effects thing that they put out recently. The name Mixbox. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Mixbox, which is just such a wonderfully simple plugin to use. It's just you bring in the plugin and you can put up to 8 effects plugins with just some very simple controls, and it's a really quick and rapid way of coming up with an effects chain or a channel strip of some description.
Oh, is that what it is? Like a modular channel strip thing?
Yeah, it's really, really good. But anyway, there you go.
One of the bummers, though, is that they don't have a prorated system. I mean, they've got their jam points, but it doesn't take that much off of those max packs. So, I've got a lot of IK Multimedia stuff, but it still shows $600 for me to get the few things I don't have. It's like, gonna pass.
But I mean, conversely, the quality is definitely it's worth it. You're not throwing good money after bad. It's a good package, and that package with the speakers is incredible because those I think are around 300 and something each.
Yeah, that is a good deal for that one. Like if you don't have any of their stuff, that's the way to go.
Yeah, because if you're looking for a pair of monitors as well as maybe some of these, then that's just a no-brainer. IKMultimedia.com, and we'll hopefully have more from them in the next few weeks with the launch of the Uno Synth Pro, which is imminent. Let's move on to this rather excellent piece of news, and this is the fact that Mr. Tom Oberheim is going to be launching a new synth. Which has always got to be a great piece of news as he tries to
already started costing up stuff to
have
sell.
You really?
Right, okay.
I'm not surprised. I mean, we've had the glory of the Oberheim or the OBE, should we say? So this doesn't really need much bigging up. This is the TVS Pro Special Edition, and I believe all I can tell the difference between this and the previous model of the TVS Pro, which was the black in 2016 and the white-faced one which was also in the same year. I think the only difference is that this is just kind of relaunching it, but also it comes with it's a signed badge with the Oberheim logo on, a point which we'll come back onto in just a moment. But Alex, so tell me, how excited are you about this? You said you were already costing it. Is this literally top of your list?
Incredible, yeah. that's. I mean, Oberheim is just the stuff he worked on, the different eras. It's like someone who did the 8-voice, but also did the DMX. I love that when people. It's like Emu. It's like they did the Emu modular, but they also did the SP1200, and they also did the SSM chips. Where you have these people who just do completely different things, and those 70. They're famous for the the OB8, OBX. The jump kind of Van Halen thing, but those 70s SEM based Oberheim synths. I've only briefly played them, but some of the demos I've heard of them just sound unbelievable. And everybody I know who really knows their synths, they go, "What's a synth that really blows you?" They were like, "Oh, I played an Oberheim 4-voice or a 2-voice." So I've always wanted Bob. They're so expensive, so hard to find. And
how much are these? Because it doesn't reveal the price.
And then I was talking about the originals, and then he reissued it, but it was such a short run, and I missed it. And I think they're about $3,000, $3.5 grand. So they're not cheap. But they're and this time I think it's going to be an even shorter run. But he's hand building them, and I was watching the J3PO. He did a demo with the TVS Pro from a few years ago, and I was watching it the other day. I don't know how it sounds so ridiculously good, but when I heard about this, I was like, "Oh God, I've got to have one." And then I heard that he's hand building them, and they're limited edition, so it's probably going to be like KaoX 2600, where it sold out before they'd even announced it. Just like, cheers, guys.
Indeed, yeah. It says for more information on pricing and delivery, a schedule will be announced later this year. So I guess we'll wait and see. But as you say,
I can already see like the zombie faces pressed up against the glass of Tom Oberheim's salespeople.
I think our friend Simon Alexander has one of the previous TVS Pros. He'll correct me. He's in the chat room. He'll either confirm or deny. But that was an interesting little tidbit of news. It just kind of snuck out of the ether and got everyone very moist around the gusset, as it ought to do. But of course, it was followed. Sorry.
Really ought to. I think one of the disappointments with it, because we all want one so bad, is that. Kind of was hoping that he would partner with Dave Smith again, so that Dave's production, one guy making synthesizers is not going to be very many synthesizers, and Tom is wonderful, but this would be wonderful to get him out to the public in the numbers that, there's so many of us that would want one. That I'm still hoping, but if not, I mean, the thing that gives me comfort that will allow me to rest easy is to go to my computer and use OBE.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for us mere mortals, we have a plugin.
Or the other thing too is that the OB6 uses SEM voice cards, so it's not quite the same as having 6 SEMs set up together, because you're not going to have the kind of variance between them. It's going to be a little locked in closer, but it does have an excellent tone.
Did you get onto the subject? I'm sorry I had to nip out for a second, but did you get onto the subject of the name?
Not yet.
Because I think that's like quite bizarre that you've got Uli saying that they've got the name, and this new Oberheim that they're turning out is going to be branded as an Oberheim, and then you've got Tom also doing the same thing. Who actually owns the name? What's going on?
Well, I've been trying to decipher this afternoon in between doing the day job, just to make sure that I get this right. So this is the documentation from the US Patent and Trademark Office, and the trademark being applied for, as we know, is a Behringer Oberheim. And this is a non-final office action, which basically means that they are refusing Music Tribe the use of the Oberheim brand at this moment in time, and the reasons being given. And I'll quote the thing here. It says, registration is refused because the applied for mark consists of or includes matter that may falsely suggest the connection with Tom Oberheim. which is contrary to Trademark Act Section 2A, 15 USC, blah, 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 blah. Although the person is not connected with the goods provided by applicant under the applied for mark, Tom Oberheim is so well known, these are the words, so well known that consumers would presume a connection. And yeah, they absolutely would. And it goes on to mention lots of legal jargon, and they're bizarrely, there's lots of quotes here, links to, Wikipedia, Music Radar, Sound on Sound, Synth. Oh no, we're not mentioned in there. We're not quite that good yet. But also there's mention of because they're obviously kind of referring to precedent in the past, and I use that word slightly loosely because they invoke Trump in there as well as a. There was a product called Trumpet, Trump-it. And that had something, because the marks created direct association with President Trump. There's also one there about Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, with somebody holding a registration mark, Princess Kate. That was barred under Section 2C because of the fact it might have been connected or that association implied. What this document says, though, ultimately is that, yes, they have refused the application, but the applicant has 6 months to come back and argue their case against this. After 6 months, if they don't pursue it, then it then just automatically fails. One other point is that apparently Behringer have now removed the Oberheim logo from their website. So I was told shortly before coming on air. I haven't had a chance to check that out myself. But interesting news there. Yeah. Cryss has obviously gone to Point Percy at the Porcelain. Alex, any thoughts on this application being refused?
God, this is controversial, isn't it?
Yeah, we do controversy.
Okay, we do controversy. So, I mean, I'll start by saying I don't have issue with cloning synths, particularly dead synths that haven't been made for donkey's years and that no one can find or afford. And obviously we've just been talking about OBE, and I've worked on the S2400, which is inspired by the SP1200. So I have no issue with clones. I have absolutely no issue at all. In fact, I'm massively pro affordable synthesizers. I'm really fortunate because of connections I have to be able to get a System 100M back there. Dream come true. But for most people, they're just not going to be able to access one or afford one. And so something coming along that is basically the exact architecture of that synth for like a tenth of the price or whatever it is fantastic. I love the fact that people can enjoy that. Enjoy what I enjoy about it. Loads of other people can, because then you can be like, and I've commented on people's videos where they've been with the Behringer System 100 and said, it's great to see that, people are enjoying this, because I think that's fantastic. And they do sound really good. I don't think I've heard a Behringer clone that sounds off. I think I played the MS 101. It sounded exactly like my SH 101.
I agree.
I think pretty much anything else I've played, they work with the right people. They seem to be able to do it well. That's great. Using the name of a synth manufacturer who's still alive and still making synths, and putting their, not just their name, but their flipping logo with I've got it. There's an Oberheim behind me there. With the little musical logo, and then writing "We at Oberheim" and then listing a load of achievements that Tom Oberheim did, as in the same sentence as we, the same paragraph as "We at Oberheim," as though the two things are connected, is a step too far. And Behringer have gone too far with many things that are nothing to do with clones. They've done it. It's cheeky that the ARP logo is on their 2500. And then this is, the G logo, G clef logo is on their 25. That's not theirs. And then this is going another step further. And I think the intent here is a bit sinister.
It is,
and I think if you're loving what Behringer are doing, which I totally understand, great, then I think people should not be complete and utter arseholes to each other, which is unfortunately what happens.
Yeah.
And say, this isn't the right way to go with this. Leave Tom Oberheim's amazing legacy to Tom Oberheim, and make what is it, the XA, the OBXA, is it they're making?
Yeah.
Make it right. You can't get that synth's not being made. You'd have to spend thousands of pounds to get one. If you can make an instrument inspired by it that sounds like it, and call it the UBXA or whatever, great, do that. Don't call it the Oberheim.
Because they don't need to call it an Oberheim.
No.
We know that the UBXA or whatever, even if they do get to keep calling it the OBXA, which they claim it's now, we don't need that. Yeah. I don't understand. Everybody that buys a synthesizer nowadays, I am sure, knows the name Tom Oberheim, and knows the history and the legacy, and knows Behringer, and knows what they do, and will buy the Behringer regardless of whether it says Oberheim on it, because they know it's a clone, and that's the sound they want, and that's what they can afford, and that's fine. I've got TD3 there. They don't call that the Roland TD3. It's similar in name, it's similar in style, and it's almost identical in sound. Same with the 101. But they didn't have to. Obviously Roland. You try and do that to Roland, they will take you to the cleaners. One of the most litigious musical manufacturers I think I'm aware of. And as you say, it's sinister because Tom is just one guy. There is no Oberheim business as such.
Yes.
Other than him, and so that smacks of like one guy, we can have him. What's he going to do?
Yeah, it's awful.
And that really leaves.
It's not a good move. And combined with some of the other stuff that's happened in the last 18 months, I think there's something really good here. It's like there's a company that can make really great sounding analog synths. They have the means to do that affordably.
Yeah.
And that should be awesome. And it is awesome in many ways, but it's just come with so much bullshit that it's just infuriating. Yeah. And any kind of discussion about it, it's just, I guess it's the way of the world. At the moment, it's just any type of discussion just descends very rapidly. And it's a bit painful because it's like we could be... This could be really, really good. It doesn't need to be. One of the things I think is like, instead of registering Tom Oberheim's name, why don't Behringer make an amazing new analog synth that's like their freaking synth? Do the clones. Great, people want that. There's a market for that. But they could do something so good. Some of the people they work with on this stuff, it sounds fantastic. Make a 16 voice poly that has loads of modern stuff and that's not based on anything. That's like, they could do that as well. I'd wish the focus would turn to that rather than, oh God, what's going on now? Because
I think what they're doing there, it's like the DeepMind 12, isn't it? I know that's based on a Juno, but they did kind of push that as their own thing. But they must have seen more success with, the clones because people want a piece of that action.
But why don't they just do, as Alex said, and we've said it before, they've got all the expertise, they've got the infrastructure, they've got everything you need. Why just build a unique synthesizer? And it could be inspired by, like the DeepMind was, but do something. Create create that OB6 clone, but call it something completely different. Don't make it look the same. When people hear it, they'll go, "Wow, that's got something about of an OB6A about it," and maybe that's the thing. And maybe use a little bit of the spiel inspired by the classic, sound of. But do something, do something new and different. And there was a time when they seemed to be edging that way, particularly around the time of the DeepMind. They brought out this augmented reality thing, and that never amounted to much. I think probably because most of the team left. But You know, it just it didn't happen, and yet they seem to be playing this thing, churning out clone after clone. As Alex says, they're a lot of them are really, really good and really affordable, and getting good instruments into the hands of people that couldn't before, and yet they still have this little dark side that does this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I reckon they could do both. I reckon you know there's a market for clones. You know, I'm not saying to them, you know, you've invested all this, you know, in setting up being able to do this, so stop because I say so. Because I mean, obviously that's ridiculous and very narcissistic. But that's do that, but don't register Tom Oberheim's name. Yeah. For God's sake, fine, do that. Make the clones. People are loving that. Like a Selena, that's fantastic. You can't find a Selena, and if you can, it probably doesn't work. I just covered the VP330, the Roland. I've had to wait years to find someone who had one I could borrow. So if there's like a 400 quid clone of that sounds exactly the same, brilliant. Yes, you know, absolutely. You know, I'm not saying ditch clones, but I'm saying don't be a dick about clones, and also go, where's the future? Maybe they are doing this. Maybe I'm being completely unfair. Maybe there's this huge bunch of projects going on that they're not talking about, and probably someone's watching this and screaming, thinking we are doing that. You know, maybe they are. But it'd be great if this could, you know, just turn a bit more.
Somebody's
maybe
just
we can come together around this rather than being.
Sorry. Somebody's just mentioned the Neutron as well in the chat, but wasn't that heavily based on the Mother 32? Isn't it?
I think it's inspired by. Yeah, I don't know. I've never used one.
It's not. It's not. It doesn't claim to be that.
But the thing is, nowadays, anybody builds a synthesizer, and it's going to get compared to an older synthesizer because, you know, there's a finite amount of ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And loads of people are cloning stuff as well. That's the other thing.
It's not just Behringer, is it?
It's not just Behringer, and Behringer, and I can understand why, because of, you know, things that have happened and the scale of them and how kind of prominent they are, have had probably the brunt of the flack for making clones, while other people, you know, slip under the radar with their range of clones that no one's.
But it's almost as if they caught that. It's like the Ryanair thing, you know. There's no such thing as bad publicity. You know, if Ryanair are in the news for charging people 20p to go and have a crap on the toilet, they don't care if they get loads of bad press because their name's in the papers. And it's the same with Behringer. I think that if they upset enough people, or, you know, pull off a little stunt here or there, it gets their name out there, and that's really all, you know, they care about.
I'd hate to think that that's what's going on, but you get a sense that it does them favours. The more controversy leads to people like us right now talking about it.
Yeah, and we do. We always kind of end up with this thing.
Yes. So maybe they're very, very happy for that to happen. I don't know. But I mean, I've spoken to Uli Behringer on a private conversation briefly once, which was very respectful, and that's about it. So I can't, I'm talking from the outside, so I can't. You know, I'm not going to be claimed to be the expert on what they're doing, but I just, do you know when you look at something you think this could be incredible? Why is this more painful than it? Why could something that's like so awesome have wound up just with these kind of like why did we go here on certain things? You know, the Oberheim thing, the Peter Kern thing, like messages on social media saying, "Do you trust reviewers?" And, you know, it's all a bit Trumpy, isn't it?
Suing staff at Sequential and
and to be absolutely clear, I'm also not naive. I don't think everyone else is, you know, all sweetness and light, and it's just bad old Behringer. You know, other companies have done bad stuff. And other companies been caught doing bad stuff and got in a lot of trouble about it. So it's not the one bad egg. But well,
as Cryss says in the chat room, Behringer just copyrighted the word controversy, so you now owe him a fiver. Anyway, let's move on. So Tom Oberheim's bringing out a new TVS Pro Special Edition, and he's also a step closer to retaining the rights to his own name, which of course is a good thing.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
let's just give a little plug to this, because we had the wonderful Michelle Moog on the show last week. We've had so much great feedback. We are so happy that you all enjoyed it so much, and people have been sending us messages publicly, and I've been receiving private messages saying thank you and congratulating us on that. And look, it was Michelle, and she's a wonderful woman doing some wonderful work. So thank you for that. But she did say in the interview last week that they were hoping to announce something in the following week, and announce something they have. And this is the news that there is a 2021 Minimoog Raffle, which will see one lucky winner win this wonderfully restored Minimoog Model D with a custom cabinet made from, I have to get the African Macquarie wood. It's a rare wood. It's celebrating the 50th year of the anniversary of Minimoog shipping to customers from the original R.A. Moog factory in Trumansburg, New York. And there's one of these. It has been beautifully restored with this new wood casing by Wes Taggart. Now, I was speaking to somebody who is a bit of a Moog expert, and when they first saw this, they thought, "Oh no, that's been recabineted and it doesn't." And then they saw the name Wes Taggart. They said, "Oh no, that's good. Everything's good, because that means it's going to be top-notch quality." Tickets are available. One ticket is $20. You can get 6 for $100, 14 for $200, or 40 tickets for $500. There are 4,500 tickets in total. You've got until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on March 29th to buy your ticket. It's an international raffle, so it doesn't matter where you are. The raffle will end, or the entry will end on March 29th, or when all 4,500 tickets are sold. So if you want to own this one-off lovely example of a Minimoog, and there's a great video as well.
And let me interject as well here. So obviously we're all in love with this thing, and that's one of the most beautiful Minimoogs I've ever seen. And there's obviously a lot of lust for that thing. But I want to just draw some attention, because when we had Michelle on last week, it was so wonderful to hear about her father and who he was. But I think the greatest thing is that the work that they're doing with the Bob Moog Foundation, and we're obviously very focused on this Minimoog, but the greater thing out of this, even if one of us get to own this thing, is that all the proceeds are going to the Bob Moog Foundation. They have the Dr. Bob School for educating kids in music and bringing things to schools that a lot of kids don't get these days. And there's so much good work going on. And that's really, really want to keep that in mind and not have that get lost. That, you might spend $20 or $100 or $500 and not win it, but you haven't lost, because that money is going to help children.
Yeah, absolutely, and to help maintain Bob's legacy in his archive, which is just a fabulous collection of stuff, as Michelle outlined to us last week. So yeah, absolutely, Chris, bang on. So if you want to enter that raffle, it's moogfoundation.org. You can also buy stuff from the BMF online store, bit.ly/shop BMF, and of course you can make donations directly to bit.ly/contribute BMF to do that, and all of the information is available on the moogfoundation.org website. So I just wanted to put that one in there. So the next big news of the week, and this one just came out of nowhere, was Roland Cloud. And they have announced the JD800 expansion model for the Xenology plugin, which, there we go, there it is. And I was so hoping when I saw this, I was going, please ACB, give me that interface. I want that interface. But sadly, no. We get the sound, but we don't get that interface. So it uses the ZenCore or the Xenology Pro interface, which I'm just trying to find a decent screenshot of. There isn't one, but yeah, we all kind of know what that is. Now we actually have Ben. I'm not going to obviously play the entire video, but Ben our Ben actually owns a JD800, and so we tasked him this week. We kind of twisted his arm, and you've had to resubscribe, haven't you, to Roland Cloud?
Yeah.
Just to do this. This is the lengths we go to bring you quality content.
A whole £20 of spend.
Yeah. And did you do the offer where you get this to try this, and then you kind of get Roland Cloud for 6 months if you do the trial or something?
What?
There was some offer, and I think it's still available.
Oh my God!
Yeah, from March 2nd.
I told you about it. I told you about it.
Buy it. Oh no. So no. Actually, no. Don't worry. It's not. Maybe you haven't really made. Basically, if you buy a lifetime key to this, which they're usually like 149, aren't they? The lifetime keys. Yeah. You get 6 months of cloud membership, ultimate cloud membership for free. So you can get access to everything.
It's like a reverse of the other deal. Yeah.
You can play it for free though right now in March.
That's right, yeah. So you can get to test drive it for free, which is it's a nice concept. I think they've kind of pinched off Reason because any Reason plugin you can get to trial for a month before you decide whether you want to buy it or not. But anyway, let's bring up Ben's video. Ben, are you going to post? I know you've posted this on your YouTube channel, but will you throw this up onto ours?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was
just don't want to drive traffic away from your site, but hey,
I'm not bothered.
Underneath the video here in the description box,
I've only got 2 subscribers.
Links to everybody's channels, including Ben's channel, so you can find a link to that. Down below.
Absolutely, yeah. So our Ben has done this comparison video. So it's the Xenology JD800 versus an original.
Hello.
Now, as you may or may not know, Roland
look, this is what Ben's studio looks like in daylight.
The model JD800.
Look at how nervous Alex looks.
Plugin. Look, it's part of the Roland Cloud package.
Alex, you've got competition.
I've got an original JD800, and I'm going to.
But yeah, so
you can skip it to
sound is called Millennium.
Let's just turn the sound down there. So yeah, we could skip forward, and you're comparing, the presets, I guess, because it comes with the Xenology version comes with the 64 presets that the original did. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. So you're kind of doing side-by-side comparisons, yeah?
Yeah. It's exactly the same part duplicated onto 2 tracks.
Yeah.
Because I found that when I was playing it slightly different. Like there was more pressure, or I was using aftertouch differently. So I thought the only way of accurately doing this is to duplicate the same part between the 2.
Yeah. I found when I was playing this, I was using the KaoX, and I didn't realise how many of the patches had aftertouch and some not extreme, but really used aftertouch for a lot of stuff on this. Was that a common? Because I've never played a JD800, so
it seems more noticeable in the Xenology one.
Okay,
it's like really, really sensitive, the aftertouch. You just lean into it slightly, and you've gone like 32 semitones out.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, but yeah, the accuracy of the sound. I know it's digital, but it is. Well, I don't know if you can play any examples, but it's so close. It's untrue.
Let's see if we can. Let's do. So I'm trying to find the clip in the video. So here we go. Original.
After hearing that little bit of Ben's intro, I think I'm going to use that for some ASMR and listen to that as I go to sleep. This is a JD800.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a patch for you.
As dynamic as a sock.
Here we go. Let's listen to Massive Pad. So this is an original JD800. You are hearing this, guys. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, good. And this is the Xenology. Well, even through YouTube's kind of video compression there,
it's bang on.
It's paper thin, isn't it? The difference, if there is
one. It's absolutely bang on. I've been, there's some sounds like the LA MIDI Grand is slightly brighter, and some sounds were more responsive to velocity. So I had to take I had to turn the velocity down a little bit to match them up. But that was the only thing I did. There's no effects on that. There's nothing. It's just direct.
So I have a theory about why they didn't do an ACB model of this. Because if they had to do that interface, surely after 6 months of owning the plugin, you'd get some kind of red goo coming down from the keyboard section. That for pure authenticity, you would have to have melted red glue. That would have been such a brilliant thing for them to do.
They could have tied that to the condition knob, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As increasing condition, then you get more red glue.
Yeah, because I mean, Dave Smith says, look, here's a vintage knob on a Prophet 5 Rev 4 that gives you all the quirkiness of the originals where we didn't quite get it right, but people kind of like it. Why didn't Roland just very tongue-in-cheek say, yes, this is truly authentic, and if you turn the knob around to like original mode, then you get this slight little red drips that come out from underneath. That would have been brilliant. Alex,
for the 106, they should do the voice cards slowly fail.
Yes, quite. It just would be nice if they had a sense of humour. But anyway, so Alex, you're kind of. We kind of know your videos predominantly for being demonstrations of vintage analog stuff, mostly. Does this kind of thing appeal to you? Are you a fan of the kind of those 90s Rompler type digital synths?
Oh, the 90s Romplers. God, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah, I think the age I was when those were like new and the thing, that's kind of put me off them maybe slightly. They're a lot of fun. But I think there's more romance in my mind with stuff that's a little bit earlier, maybe just slightly just the year I was born and maybe how it fell. When those came in, that kind of tech, I think I was much more into guitars, and so the sound of them was a bit like. But they do. The JD does sound. Now, all these years later, listen to it. It does sound absolutely fantastic. It's a totally different sound. It's a bit like when the D50 comes out and suddenly it's like whoa.
Because this kind of was like the next level from a D50, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was that because it still had the partials and and that kind of
yes, it is that. Yeah, it's interesting. I've only very briefly played a JD 800 myself, but the plugin looks. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use. I've got the cloud. Funny enough, I was doing some comparisons with the Juno 60 and the 6 the other day out of interest, just to myself. So, and they, the model. Some sounds are like slightly brighter, but you just turn the filter down. Yeah. But a lot of it, I mean, the modelling nowadays is amazing.
It's crazy good, isn't it?
It really is. It's kind of funny that you say that. So I started with guitar as well, and I'm thinking about the 90s and high school, early to mid 90s, and kind of sounds that I would have heard of synthesizers, and the things that I was really attracted to during that time as a rock player was more the 70s, stuff you'd hear from Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or The Who. And then, probably the first synthesis that I thought there was actually a synthesis or I should say actually a keyboard player rather than somebody like a Pete Townsend or whatever that I really kind of latched onto was, what's his name? Greg Hawkes of the Cars? Forgive me if I got the wrong name, but that was one of the bands like, oh, actually synth is kind of cool. But during the time that I was starting to hear that, everything was 90s romplers. I thought, there's no muscle car meat to this sound. I was used to hearing old Moogs and that kind of just that like gurgly rumble and I was like, man, I don't get these synthesizers these days. But now it's kind of funny to revisit those sounds much later. And when I play some of those sounds, I do like the D50 or like this JD 800 sound. But I played it and I kind of like I feel like 15-year-old Cryss is mocking me, like, what are you playing that girly sounds for?
So I'm going to have to stick my hand up here because I think, am I the oldest person in the room here?
It's got to be me.
How old are you?
I think Ben.
76.
Yeah. Seriously,
I'm 52.
All right, so you're a year older than me. Okay, so we I mean, I couldn't afford to buy my own proper synthesizer. I'd own things like, Yamaha VSS 200s or Commodore 64s with plug-in things. But my first proper synthesizer was a Roland Sound Canvas, which I know is, two words, proper synthesizer and sound canvas. They don't always go together. But the engine of the sound canvas, particularly, the 88, which is what I had, the 88 Pro, the 88 VL, was derived from the same engines that the JDs and the JVs came up with. So I think the sound canvas was a few years after.
I just remember kids, when we were at school, there would be sound canvases because that seemed to be the school seemed to get a deal getting those.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing people trying to make drum and bass on them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kill them with the sound canvas.
I tried to do. I did a cover version of Howard Jones's Hide and Seek in a drum and bass style. It's on my SoundCloud page if you're brave enough. Because I threw it up there. I found a cassette of all these old recordings it's on, and that's completely sound canvas. But what I have an affinity with that sound that those synths made, and the sort of higher end sound canvases had a much bigger selection of sounds. So you had your 128 general MIDI things, but then behind each one of those were the GS sounds, which were a lot of them were very similar. When I was going through this, I was that sounds really familiar. That sounds almost, in fact, Fantasia, I think, on JD800, or what they call it, Fantasia 2 or Fantasia
90s.
That's it, Fantasia 90s.
Yeah.
That sounds almost identical to a sound canvas. So that sound is, for me, is just truly embedded in the 90s, and there was some good stuff there, but there was also some awful stuff. Synth Addicts just said in the chat room he had a PMA 5, which I had one too. I just couldn't ever get on with it. Weird little things, but it was just basically a sound canvas with one of Roland's keyboard arrangers built in there. But very nice. So there you go. So you're going to throw that up onto our YouTube channel?
Well, I'll give it to one of you two, and you two can do it.
Yeah, actually,
If I put it up, it'll probably end up like on
kids only
Tinder or something. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. Send me the file, and we'll sort that out. So if at the moment it's on Ben Simpson's own personal channel, and if you want to go over there, please do subscribe. He's only got 20 subscribers. Let's get that number up.
And big time. You must be approaching that now, Alex.
20 subscribers?
Yeah,
you
like
Tinder, maybe.
You're nearly on my level. Yeah.
On Tinder, yeah.
Can you have some subscribers on that? I haven't got any.
Grindy, you can. Oh, sorry. So
where's Geert?
Yeah. Where is he when you need him? Let's talk about this, because we've mentioned Alex's channel. We've got to talk about that channel, because it is probably one of the best. Every time I get a note, a subscription reminder, there's new stuff. Literally I stop. All right, we're going to put this on. We're going to watch it, and then share the shit out of it. So this is your latest one, Alex, which is the VP330, and I have to say, I know that you have this kind of pattern when you go through it. You go through the history, you go through the functionality, and then at the end you give us a tune. Where the hell do you get time to write such brilliant demonstration tunes when most of us can't even knock up a tune to amuse ourselves? What's your secret?
Well, if you look at the video, you'll notice that in every instance of me playing it, I'm wearing different clothes, and it's because I do it like when I can.
Red jumper and woolly hat.
Red jumper, and if you spin through to the end track, it's ridiculous. I'm in every.
Oh yeah, you're in lots of different costumes, aren't you?
Yes, as you can see, and the reason is because I fit it in and I write it as I go along. So I don't. It's not like.
I genuinely thought that was deliberate.
In an afternoon.
I genuinely thought the outfits was a deliberate thing to differentiate. So orange jumper is guitars, red jumper is keyboards.
I thought you were doing a Phil Collins, to make us think it was a band. Yeah.
No, it's like an hour here, an hour there, and you get quicker at them. I guess because I've worked doing music for media for so long, where people say, "Write something now."
Right.
The deadline was, and you have to write on demand all day, every day for years and years and years. You get used to being able to just do something really.
So, are you able to tell us what Alex Ball does when he's not making these videos? What does Alex Ball do for a day job?
Well, that's changed. So I was I had been so I started out doing music for media in 2007. I think I went full time, and I did that freelance for a while. Had a limited company with a couple of other people for a while, and then I wound up. I was doing some work for M&C Saatchi, the ad agency.
Okay.
The Saatchi brothers, and
Sorry, what was that noise? Oh, it's the name dropping at the back there. Yeah.
well, it's just the name of the agency.
Well, this is true.
I was doing
It's a
some
big agency.
I was doing some work for them, and it just so happened a load of things happened at the same time. There was the global financial crash, and that really had a bad. I was just trying to start out and get things going, and then like people I started making contacts with and getting work with went out of business because of the massive credit crunch thing. So, but I was, looking around what I was doing, and they I did some jobs for them. I think it was like Lucasade and Kingsmill or something, and they were looking to have someone work for them who was in a music role, because music was part of absolutely everything, and so they just wanted somebody who could basically be a music producer who could work as doing supervision, licensing, searching, research, arranging musicology reports and things when you need that kind of information, and then also all the composition side, which involved me being a composer but also overseeing jobs. So I've hired most composers you've probably heard of. So I took that role because they kind of offered it to me. And it was like a 3-month contract, and then they extended it 3 months, and then 6 months, and all told I was there 11 years. So that worked contract. Really, really well, and it was unbelievable. The stuff I got to work on, I've completely lost count of how many ad campaigns I worked on, and just the kind of brands they work with because of the size of an agency like that, and some of the experiences. I think the highlight was we were doing a job for Havana Club Rum, and we were working with a Cuban band to make it authentic. And at the time, the infrastructure in Cuba was not good enough that we could work with them remotely. So somebody had to fly out to Cuba to sit at a studio in Havana with a 13-piece Cuban band. So the next thing I know, I'm boarding a plane and going to Cuba. So some of the experiences on that job were just, it was a dream job in many respects. Anyway, 2020 happened, and I got made redundant. So I went freelance last summer.
Okay.
And have been doing the same thing. So I'm still doing music for adverts, but I've also I've did music for a couple of computer game trailers actually, which is really cool. I've completely forgot the name of them, which is really, really bad. Sackboy was one, Sony, and the other one slipped my mind. Damn it. I've done a lot of jobs and I forgot. Yeah, I did a couple of them for. They were really big. They were for Sony, so those are really cool, and I was really enjoyed that experience of doing, launch trailers for working on music launch trailers for computer games, and then I've also I've diversified into other stuff. So I've been doing some production. I'm doing all the synths on someone's album at the moment, which is a really nice job. Where they've recorded all the parts with MIDI, and then I replay everything on lovely vintage synths and stuff. And I've also been, I'm sure you've seen, I did a job for Euler Instruments doing their S2400 video manual. I'm doing other jobs for other companies at the moment, which I can't talk about at the moment. So it's actually worked out that it just so happens that having built up a YouTube channel has meant that I've had something to use as a kind of shop window, I guess. Yeah. So I'm still continuing doing the other advertising stuff as well as and when that comes in. But I'm doing more of the kind of tech stuff as well, which is great fun because people seem to. I guess it's got to a size now that people are considering me to do demonstrations for new products and stuff, which is really nice because I love doing that.
Yeah, and we love you doing it. I mean, this is the thing. You know, you have built up your brand, and everybody I know says, you know, Alex Ball's videos, you know, you got to see this one, you know, this new instrument or that, you know, this classic instrument. And as I said before, I think at the top of the show, it was, you know, it's your combination, I think, of your knowledge and your expertise, your historical accuracy, your playing ability, but most of all, it's the production, the way, you know, the humour, the way. I don't know whether you riff or whether you script it or whether you have some kind of guide in there, but it's all so well done. It really is.
Yeah, no, I script it. I've tried. Do you know it's taken years to build that channel up? It's just started off kind of fun and non-serious, and then I started off doing something else, and then completely changed direction into synths. But you do it wrong. You experiment with doing it wrong in every way you can do it wrong before you then go, oh right, well that's the best. Yeah, so I'm still kind of figuring it out, but yeah, I think I've got into a bit more of a flow, and it's grown a lot in the last 2 years. It's gone, and it's now approaching 100,000. It's 90 something now, I think, which is you know, I never thought it would be anything like that. I remember it took
almost 92,000.
Took a couple of years to get to like 1,000 subscribers.
It's funny, you have to pinch yourself sometimes, don't you? I'm the same with my 20 subscribers. Like, it's a good feeling.
I'm always talking to these two, Chris. I'm always talking to Chris and Ben, saying, "Look, we got to get our subscribers up. What can we do? Can we sell ourselves? Can we do something?" And you know, Chris is always the one that says, "Look, it will come. It will come." And hearing, you know, what you've said, that just kind of relaxes me a little bit, probably until tomorrow when I go, "No, we need to get some more subscribers."
Yeah, it's the funny. I've not had that thing where YouTube blesses you with a recommended
with a
video.
Plaque.
No, not that. But you know when someone uploads a video and for whatever reason that nobody knows, and if anyone did know, then they'd obviously take advantage of it. YouTube just recommends it to everybody.
Okay.
And then like 2 days later, they've got like 5.9 million views on a video. You know, and I know people that's happened to, and you know, all power to them, and you know, totally deserving. But that's never happened to me, so I've always had to just like grind away. So to relate to what you were saying, yes, you do just have to keep going, and unless you get some kind of lucky thing like that where you wind up on an algorithm, you just have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And,
Well, and it gives you some value to all that time that you spent. Not just for the sake of what everybody gets out of it, even because I think that's probably the biggest part of it. Like when you do these, you know, like the art documentary, we all have gotten so much out of it, but then at least at some point it is like returning to you something, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It's good to work your way out. You've just reminded me. When I started guitar, my parents got me an awful guitar, and rightly so, to see if I'd actually stick at it. And I worked up chronologically through bad guitars to reasonable guitars. With each guitar, the strings get closer to the neck, and it gets easier to play. And then I think I'd been playing 10 years when my parents got me an Ibanez Gem, which I've still got, and I've still got the guitar I had before it, which was a Squier Jagmaster. And I worked up to that guitar, and I, like exactly as you say, it felt like when I sat down with that guitar, like I'd done 10 years and I'd had lessons and everything, and I'd worked this up, and this felt right that I had this. And I went to a gig that we were playing about a week after I got it, and there was a support band of some 16-year-olds who it was their first gig, and you know, you give people an opportunity and say, sure, you can have an opening slot at the gig. You know, great, go for it. And the guy turned up, and he'd been playing 6 months, and he had the same guitar. Like, no, that's not right. You haven't put your years in, and he couldn't play it, and it was
happens to the best of us. So if you want to check out Alex's videos, I don't think I've ever met anybody in this community that hasn't already. But Alex Ball is simply Alex Ball. Nice and simple.
It's not very imaginative, is it?
No.
Or as Geert calls him, Alex Balls.
Do you know, here's a funny, our family surname was, there's two surnames, there's Ball and there's Balls, and our family line is balls. But my great grandfather was in the Navy in World War One, and to avoid being killed by being ripped out of him so much by other people in the Navy, he's just said, no, ball. There's no S on the end of that. I should have changed it to like, so yeah, our family history goes balls, 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 and then all of a sudden it just goes ball. But it's still awful. It's what an awful surname.
Oh,
as well.
come on, no.
But I mean, the only advantage is people don't forget it.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's time to make your own mark on it and add a Z to the end.
Yeah.
Alex Balls.
What's next as far as the channel's concerned? Have you got any? I mean, you said you got some irons in fires. Anything? Any more single video things you've got lined up? You've got anything coming in?
I might be depending. It's difficult to borrow things when you can't see people at the moment, but. I've got a cool one. I've got a radiophonic one from Suit and Tie Guy coming.
Awesome.
Have you seen that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay.
But I've not seen.
They've done modules, but it's the first time they've put a bunch of specific modules together to make a synth.
Right.
So that's a modular synth that looks very interesting. I've got an idea for a video for that that's going to be suitably silly.
Cool.
And so that's one, and then I've got. Hopefully, I can borrow an RS505 paraphonic.
Okay, yeah.
Which was released at the same time as the VP330, so that'll be another one. Hopefully, might be able to borrow part of a Roland System 100, the earlier one, which I've never actually featured myself. So there's a few things that might be possible, and hopefully those will happen. I think we're going to do something with some. Retro compressors as well, just to be different. I'll find a concept for that. What's always hard is finding borrowing gear is one thing, but thinking of a concept to how to use it. Because if you just say overview or something, it's like I don't care. So you have to think of a way of making
and
it.
But that's a clear definition on your channel, is that every video you do, whilst it's clearly an Alex Ball video, you go everything's got its own unique spin on it, which is really nice.
Oh, thank you. So that's the idea. Yeah, I'll borrow what I can because I'm forever blagging stuff off people. It just would be utterly impossible without it. I'd have to have a budget of millions of pounds, and then a couple of specific things, and then some hopefully they will happen things, and then a bunch of stuff I can't talk about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fair enough.
If something can miraculously appear in front of you to make a new documentary on, what would you love to do the most?
Well, that'll give away the conversations I'm having about.
Right. So you've actually achieved that then. Yeah.
Well. We'll see. There's a couple I wanted to do that might happen, and I don't want to say what they are. Then...
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Are you going to be doing a DX7 one soon?
I should. I've got there's a DX7 right there. You can't
no, you got one. So
maybe I should do something more with the DX7. I don't know. It feels like everybody did a video with the DX7 at one point.
Yeah.
I did one, and then I remember Woody at Piano Shack did a really popular one. And I just think people have done it. Yeah, maybe if I could find a spin on it that's not.
So our friend Simon, who's on the show quite often, asks if you'd like to borrow his Synth to do a video.
Yep.
And I'd like to borrow it too.
Actually, let's pass it around.
Yeah, definitely.
Pass the Synth on the left-hand side.
That thing looks awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know someone who's got one, and it just... Yeah, I funnily enough, I remember Dave Spears told me a story that when Elka were going under, I think it was. I'm going to get this all wrong. He was in Italy at the time, and there was a load of those Synthexes in a stack, and they weren't sure what was going on with them. And before they could figure out a way to get their mitts on them, someone nicked them. Someone went off with a pile of Synthexes. Those are probably being sold on the second-hand market for thousands of pounds nowadays.
Quite. Native VS in the chat room says, "Have I bullied you into doing a Fairlight documentary yet?"
Do you know what? I put a picture on Instagram of me sat with a Fairlight in a garage.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Which is at a I talked to you about it, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
It's not mine, but there is a Fairlight knocking around and the Mark 1, but getting it going is another question entirely.
This is the thing.
So, yeah, that would be. I'd love to see something with the Fairlight if possible.
Well, hopefully once this is all over.
Well, yeah, you've got. What have you got? A 3?
I've got 3 3s and a 2X, but obviously, you know, in various states of repair. But yes, so I've got some here somewhere.
Okay.
One hidden behind there somewhere.
Well, that's a lot of Fairlight.
It is. It's too much. I mean, I've had this one sat in the middle of my garage, and it's almost done. I'm just waiting for a few more parts, which I think are coming in the next couple of weeks, and then that'll be out of the door. I think I have a buyer for that one, so that'll be good. That'll be a bit more space. I'll put the drum kit back up again, and then Peter will then be on the phone and say, "Can you go and pick this one up?" So yeah. Anyway, yeah, we will. Because that's one. I think was that the first time I was aware of you when I saw your T2. I think it was the first time I really kind of thought, wow, this guy's actually doing something really good, because it was a great, I mean, your T2 video, and all of those ones, you know, with the movie theme, you know, the movie link in them, and the models and the voiceovers, and it were just fantastic.
Thank you. I should do more of those, because I've spoken to friends who aren't into synths who watch that from start to end.
Yeah.
Because if you know the film, you're like, well, I know that sound, and if someone just breaks down what that is, I've got to say, I got a lot of help on that film. There are other people who did the groundwork. Cryss at Python Blue, and then there was Mike TC at 100 Things I Do, did some demonstrations.
I saw in the
on
chat
his
room just
a
minute ago.
So
I'm sure.
I got the glory, but they really helped me out. But what the really cool thing about that was, because the Terminator scores are done by Brad Fidel, and it is definitely Fidel, by the way, because people keep going, it's Fidel. It's like, no. Here's a video of him saying his own name. It's Fidel, and Ross Levinson are the two who played. Ross Levinson did a bit of violin, and I wound up I spoke to both of them off the back of that video, which was fascinating. So I had a long phone call with Brad, and the funny thing is, and I've probably said this before, he had every bit of kit you could imagine. When you see back in the 80s, it's like Prophet 10, Oberheim system, and then he went through and had the DX7 stage, then he had the Fairlights and this and the other. Nowadays he's got a piano. At some point you just go, oh, fucking synths, and then
I was talking to Jonathan Wolfe. Is it Jonathan Wolfe, the guy who did the Seinfeld theme?
Oh yes, yeah.
So I found him. Yeah, I found him on Instagram, and I sent him a message, and we started talking, which I thought was, this is cool. And so I then said, look, we do the show on the internet, and it's talking about music technology, and you had a kind of hand in one of those kind of eternal quandaries is what was used on the the Seinfeld bass, and there's loads of different and he actually explained it to me there in this conversation. And I said, do you want to come on the show? He says, no, do you know what? I don't own any synths. I haven't owned any synths for 20 odd years. All I have is my piano, and that's that. I will be your most boring guest ever. And I said, no, you won't. He said, no, I will, honestly. Thank you, but no thanks. And that was it. But yeah, it seems to be a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. In 20 years, there'll be all of us sat here, completely bald. Actually, all of us. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I think we're all receding at some point.
And we'll all just have a piano.
We'll all have a piano. Yeah,
you'll obviously have a DX7 on top of it, Robbie.
Yes, indeed. Listen, we're going to have to draw things to a close. I think we've gone through all our topics. We've had a great chat with you. First of all, guys, have you got anything else you want to ask Alex before we go?
I think we covered it. I was mostly interested in the composition process, but because I think some of the tunes that, like
tell us a bit.
The videos are quite light-hearted. There's good factual information in there, but then these brilliant tunes just
so
pop
for example,
out
the tune
unexpectedly.
The tune at the end of the VP330, which I thought was brilliant. It was really, really good tune. Is that something you've already got in the bank, and you've just gone back to it and thought, this would suit that? Or do you purposefully sit down and write a piece specifically for each video?
Yeah, I write the pieces. Yeah, I've wondered about doing a video on this. I think the way I learnt to make music, and there weren't computers involved for a very long time, and and even when we got to recording, it was still tape, has meant that I've got a writing and arranging process in my mind.
Right.
That means I can write every single time I sit down. And people come to me all the time with the same they get stuck finishing things, start lots of things but never finish them, or write a bit and then don't know where to go and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I should make a video about what the process is. But yeah, I sat down. That tune in that, what was happening is we've got 3 boys. Our youngest is 7 months, and he really likes when I play guitar or ukulele, and I sit and sing songs to him. And I was just playing the guitar to him, and I just wrote it whilst. I mean, it took.
Yeah.
I mean, it was deliberately playing on cliches of the time. It's a bit of fun, really. It wasn't I spent hours crafting this amazing composition. It was a bit, it was just some chords and a melody, and then I just arranged it. Yeah.
Can I just say, your youngest son is just the cutest thing in the world. That video you posted last week of him at the piano is that sheer joy of just banging keys. Oh, look, Dad, it's making a sound, the smile in his face, and the hair.
I've got him in a wig earlier.
Oh, yes, that's it, yeah. He's so damn cute. So damn cute. You should have him as a mascot on the channel, I think.
Yeah, he might. He seems that my older two. I've got the other two are 11 and 8. I've got some funny videos of them over the years. I've got one of Zeb on the 808. Because I thought maybe when he's older that'll mean something to him. So I showed him how to do something, and then I filmed him, and he does a beat, and he's bringing stuff in and out, and I've got some of that. And I've got a funny video of our middle two doing a jam on a 707 and a 101, which was quite funny, and especially because Jake gets up and starts doing a little groove, which wasn't planned, but really they're not that fussed.
No.
So, and my wife's musical as well.
Are they going to follow in Dad's footsteps, do you think?
I don't know. They are learning. My wife plays piano, and she's teaching them piano. So
that's good.
They might. But maybe Barney will be. Maybe I don't know. Well, he likes to slap a piano, but.
That's a Geert line if ever I heard.
He likes to slap a
slap a piano.
But yeah, I guess you can't force these things, can you? If you say you've got to do this, they've got to find it. My brother's musical, but he didn't touch a musical instrument until he was 18. He was just I don't care. And then one day he picked up a guitar, and then he's played guitar and played in bands ever since. It's funny, isn't it? You just.
I tried to encourage my daughter. She showed an interest. We bought her a cheap little keyboard. Like you said, with a guitar, you buy a cheap one to see if it sticks, and it didn't really. And so I didn't bother with my son too much. Trying to do it, but he just kind of picked it up naturally, and now he's having piano lessons at school. Hopefully that will start again soon, and he can play better than I can, and he's got got him a Mac, and he's got a controller and stuff, and he does some great stuff. I actually had because we see this app now. We've got this app called Show My Homework or Satchel or something, and it shows their homework that they get assigned, so we can keep a track. And he got an assignment through for music tech because he's doing that at GCSE, and it was all about filters. And it was just for the first time ever I could really relate to one of my son's lessons, and so I was testing him on filter types and everything. And
did you bore the hell out of him?
Yeah. He said, "Dad, shut up, shut up." Dad.
The ladder filter.
Yes, yeah. What's the difference between 2 poles and 4 poles and low pass, high pass, band pass, etc., etc. But isn't it amazing that kids these days can actually do an exam course in things like music technology? Because when I were a lad, you could only take music at O level or CSE if you were being
recorded
taught
on wax cylinder.
Indeed, but you had to be taught. You had to be being taught by a professional to do music at O level, and my parents couldn't afford to give me lessons, and I was just self-taught drummer, and there wasn't really any room, so I missed out.
Yep. They must have relaxed those standards, because I was teaching music for quite a while, and I certainly wasn't professional.
No, that's true. Anyway, Cryss, have you got anything else you want to add in?
Sure, we'll do just 2 very short questions, one from me and one from Sergio in the chat. So
sure.
My curious question from our show today is, you've got tens of thousands of dollars of great synthesizers sitting behind you, but you said you have one guitar amp. What is that guitar amp?
It's a Fender Blues Junior 2.
There you go. All right. And Sergio asks, let's see, let me find it again here.
Is it this one here?
Okay, you got, what's your favorite music and artist?
Yeah. Who'd you listen to?
Oh, I hate this question because because of what I listen to. Absolutely loads. I have loads of different music and loads of different stuff, and on the different days I just want to listen to different stuff. So I have favorite movements from string quartets by Borodin and stuff. It sounds really pretentious, but there are just so from studying music you just find all sorts of different things. So I don't have like these are the bands I listen to, but today I was listening to Talking Heads earlier and Radio 6.
Yeah.
And oh god, they had 303 Day on Radio 6 the other day. I love Lauren Laverne, but
you're going to say exactly what I know you're going to say because I was pulling my hair out.
She said the 303, the precursor to the 808, and I was like, no.
And she doubled down.
And then she went, it's a famous drum machine. I went, no. And then they said, send in your tracks for a drum machine playlist. And the radio almost went out the window.
Yeah.
But she's great. I've worked with her. She's fantastic. But I don't know what happened. Weirdly, my Roland documentary?
Yeah.
We were listening to Radio 6 and they did a feature about Ikaturo Kakahashi. And then just a section of my documentary just appeared in their show.
Wow.
Like a couple of minutes of it. And it was like, what? And then people were sending me messages going, did you do something for Radio 6? I was like, no. They just used my documentary. So it just all of a sudden my voice came in explaining like the history of the evolution of certain products.
Didn't even ask.
Cheeky bastards. Yeah.
That's very un-BBC.
I know. What happened there, eh? Where's my? Yeah, so they should have. But I did contact them. I wasn't going to be like, and I'm going to sue you or something like. No. But
what you should do is not pay for your TV license for 1 year, and that's your royalties.
But they should. Yeah, I did say, if you want to do something synth related, I could, they help out. But they didn't take me up on it. But they should have done because I could have done something awesome for 303 Day.
Exactly.
Like not saying that it came before the 808 or that it was a drum machine, for example.
So she does this thing, you probably know this. So for those that aren't in the UK, BBC Six Music is an alternative music radio station that has become probably one of the most popular ones in the UK because
and it is fantastic.
It is a great station with great presenters, and they have a lot of artists who also double up as presenters. Guy Garvey does a show. Who's the other guy? Anyway, it's a great show. Lauren does the breakfast stuff, and I must admit I'm not as huge a fan of her as I was of Sean, who's on the show previously, but she tried to seem to get down with the kids, and she introduced this feature so that 8 minutes past 8 she would play. She said, it's 808, and she did it first, and it's actually, there was a cowbell riff, and then there's another riff that she plays, which I'm sure is actually a 909 and not an 808. So we kind of forgive her that, but then, as you said, on 303 Day, she says, "So we're going to do this playlist on 303 Day. It was an early drum machine, or it was a precursor to the 808." No. And my wife is just sat there going,
I know. Like to be fair, she's a presenter of a show that has to talk about completely different topics every single day.
Yeah.
And she, they can't go so deeply into every topic, and she's absolutely brilliant in what she does.
Yes.
But when you're nerdy like us, something like that does make you want to carve your own eyeballs out. But, yeah.
It does. Yeah. And I got into trouble for that this week because I dared to leave a comment on a video about a Fairlight that just tried to, as politely as possible, point out some inaccuracies in their perceived facts, and they just let off on me completely, and it was really quite nasty and quite upsetting. There you go.
I've started collecting my favourite exchanges.
I should say I'll send you a link. I'm
going to use them for lyrics for a song at some point. That's my idea.
That'd be good. That'd be a good idea. Anyway, Alex, listen. First of all, thank you ever so much for being with us, and I hope we haven't kept you too late from your family. Thank you ever so much for coming on, and I think more importantly, can you also thank Geert for his?
Yeah, when he gets back, he went off in a bit of a fluster, something serious. Yeah, just a big pot of Vaseline in his hand, and he just ran past it.
It's been an absolute blast, as it always is when we talk to you, and we'd love for you to come on again at some point. So I'm sure we'll be in touch. But thank you, really thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everybody in the chat room who's been throwing so many comments out there and so many positive remarks. Lots of thanks for Alex, and Andrew Brooks, for example, says please pass on our thanks to Alex for his amazing insight. Another amazing guest.
Thanks, Andrew.
We do our best. Shall we talk about our next guest today, or shall we hang on to that for another week? We've got some coming up.
I can't remember who it is. We've got that many great people coming up.
Is it one of your 20 subscribers?
It's
I hope not, because it'd be one of my family members.
Well, I'm sure there's some interesting people in your family that can give us the dirt on you. So it's how do I say this, Ben? It is a young lady who.
Why don't we do it?
Should we just do it? Should we just do it?
In the chat room.
Go on, who is it?
Okay.
Who is it?
This is going to be a surprise for Ben as well. So in 2 weeks' time, so not next week, but March 19th, we're going to be joined by the one and the only Ms. Dina Pearlman from the Alan R. Pearlman Foundation.
Nice.
So we're kind of going through Synth Foundation ladies like a hot knife through butter. There you go. Look at that.
Has Geert come back?
There you go. Archives 2021. Look at that. Fantastic. So we've got Dina coming on in 2 weeks' time, and we're not stopping there because we have 2 more guests coming up after that, but we're going to save those for you, and we're getting more and more in. We're putting loads of requests out there, but Dina Pearlman coming up in 2 weeks' time, so watch for that one. Next week I think it's just going to be a threesome, just the 3 of us, so we haven't had one of those
when
for a
you
little
need
while. Yeah, indeed. We haven't had one of those for a little while, so we'll do one of those. But thank you ever so much to everybody that's been watching. I've been watching the numbers; they've been absolutely fantastic. This is what you do, Alex. You bring us good quality numbers. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. I would name you, but I would be here all day. Thanks to Ben, to Cryss, and once again to you, Alex. It's been an absolute joy having you on. And I think we've had
Thanks
requests.
to you, Robbie.
Oh, no problem at all. All a pleasure. Yeah. I think, Ben, we've had some requests to put Geert's piece as one of our Pro Synth Network solo pieces. There's a job for you.
I'm sure it won't be the first time that Geert's piece has been in a video, but I'll definitely do that.
Or the first time that Geert's been in a solo video as well.
With his Twinkie? Yeah.
With his Twinkie, indeed. I'm going to go and finish this bottle of wine and rewatch Geert's appearance because, it was just brilliant. Thank you ever so much to Geert, to Alex, to Cryss, and to Ben. We will be back not the same time next week. We're back to our normal time next week of 7 p.m. UK, which makes it 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. Next Friday, we'll be back usual time. So please set your clocks again. And we've got that to deal with, haven't we, in a few weeks' time? The whole clock shifting and us going before the Americans and there's another Geert comment. We'll be back next week, usual time, as per normal. We will see you then. Cryss is going to play us out with some swanky wah-wah. How cool is that? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We've been the Pro Synth Network. We will see you next week. Take care and bye-bye.
Good night.